Hey guys, and welcome to Littleblckbook91. Yes, it's going to be one of those fabulous conversations in a few minutes. I am going to be joined by Aaron from the Never Ever Meets, yes, season 1. It's going to be an interesting conversation because we get to chop it up, find out a little bit more about him, and find out about his journey and connection with Jodi from the show. Listen, it's going to be great. I can feel it, that we're going to have some deep introspective moments and really get to understand Aaron's perspective and why he decided to go on the show and why he journeyed with Jodi as well. So if you love great conversations and you want to be able to be understanding of his journey, this is the place to be. Please keep it cute, classy, and kosher in the chat as well. And as always, like I said, you know what I mean? Keep it classy. Okay. All right. Don't play around in the chat. Okay. We don't want to move mad. Okay. All right. Let me get my fabulous interviewee. All right. Let me get him on the board. Yes, Aaron.
Yo.
How you doing, Captain? You good, right?
Yeah, it's a smooth day today, man. How you feeling?
Listen, I'm feeling good, man. I can't lie to you. My life is my life, and I'm ready to have one of these great conversations today, man. You get what I'm saying?
Dope. What you curious about?
Listen, look, I appreciate you coming on here, man. Listen, it's always a pleasure and an honor. We love when we get to have a conversation with people who are on the show because we get to get a first-hand perspective and your journey from your eyes and from your lips as well. So we appreciate that honestly as well. So commendable for you coming on here as well. But before we get into any kind of deep talks about yourself on the show, I like to do what we call human verification. Okay,
Let's do it.
We gotta make sure you're human, baby. You know what I'm saying?
I might be a cyborg. Real talk.
This is what I'm
Super
saying.
It's a couple options. Let's see.
You could be an alien from outer space. You know what I'm saying to you? So we gotta make sure. You know what I'm saying to you before we know you're Clark Kent. All right. So question, Aaron. If you're on a plane, the pilot says you can go anywhere in the world. Okay, you can land anywhere in any country. What place would you choose to land and why?
That's hard. We're just gonna be flying for a minute because I'm decisive about a lot of things, but not this. I'm strongly leaning the most toward Tokyo. Ethiopia is like third on the list, but Tokyo, Japan is very, very high for me.
Tokyo, Japan is one of mine as well, so I definitely rock with that. Why Tokyo, Japan for you?
So my sister and I have been obsessed with Japanese culture since toddlerhood. I don't know if we had a choice for real. Our godfather used to watch us a lot, and he was a big anime fan. So watching anime since being a baby, and also like knowing where it came from, and then seeing the different aspects of culture that surrounded it, even before it was like a wave, for real. That's always been a part of me. Like my sister, she actually learned Japanese like fluently. She's like level 4 with it. She lived there for a few years, and like even hearing her stories, it just made me want to go more. Like there's just different sites I want to see in Tokyo, different prefectures, and then if I have enough time while I'm there, I also want to go to Osaka because that's where all the fun stuff is. A lot of the fun stuff. I won't say all the fun stuff, but a lot of, as far as the stories she told, and as far as me knowing what I want to see.
Listen, I'm definitely with you on that, man. And I always said I want to go. I want to definitely want to do the Mario Kart stuff. So that's one of the reasons. You know what I mean?
And I heard that's in Osaka. Man,
This is what I'm trying to say.
you
Let
get
me
it?
know, bro. I'm gonna have a good go at this point. You got me. I want to be safe when I go out there. That's what I'm trying to say.
Definitely.
All right, Tokyo, Japan it is. All right, cool. Second question for yourself. Obviously, Android or iPhone?
Mm. It was crazy. I'm an iPhone user, but I'd say general blanket statement iPhone, but like specificity, if you have a later Samsung model, you're really the winner. So a specific type of Android, but overall iPhone.
I have both Android and iPhone, so I can't choose between the two.
I feel like that makes you perfect to choose though. You got a foot
Yeah,
in both
that's what I'm trying to
worlds.
say.
It's
You got
like,
to flex between the two. I think you got to flex between the two. I literally was trying to take photos off my iPhone the other day, and it was a struggle. And I said, this is why I have Android. I had the stress. The stress. I figured it out now, innit? But it was just a long process to figure it out. It was stress for no reason. Do you know what I'm saying to you?
no,
I was
I
like,
get you.
because my laptop is not it's not a Mac, so it was just stress for no reason. I was like,
That's definitely gonna make
iPhone
it
make
harder.
things difficult, man, when you're not connected to iPhone. So I just said, yeah.
You know what's funny? My dad is like super strong team Android, but he has an iPad, a MacBook, and I think like one other Apple product. Just refuses to get an iPhone. Like he's the most stubborn person I've ever met.
Has to be, man, because I can't tell you no lies, man. They make everything difficult. So they yeah. I'll leave Apple alone. All right, listen. Last question. Cereal or the milk in the bowl first? Cereal or the milk in the bowl first?
Cereal or the milk in the bowl first? Normally cereal first, but I have my days where I'm feeling kind of crazy, and I'll try and pour them in at the same time, just because I like doing stuff. I don't know. It's fun to watch.
Okay, I'm not mad at that. What cereal do you normally have?
It's usually going to be some type of chocolate cereal, so Cocoa Pebbles or that double chocolate crave kind of situation. Count Chocula. Really, almost any chocolate cereal is good over here, except for Special K. Don't bring that anywhere near my address.
No. Why we not talking about Special K? That's one of my cereals, bro. Special
That's,
K with
that's
the
meant,
fresh milk.
that's meant for you. You know, different strokes for different folks. Different. Everybody. Everything is meant for somebody, right? It's not meant here. That's a curse in this house.
Why? What's the story behind Special K, baby?
The taste and the way that it offends my taste buds. Yes, but it's not it. There's something special about it, all right.
Listen, I don't know. Maybe they did it different in America because Special K. Let me tell you that you need to have Special K, and this is my specialty as well. Special K with some cream crackers, plain cream crackers, in the milk. I'm telling you, listen, with the sugar,
Special cream
it goes down.
I've never tried that, but something I do. And this is probably gonna sound crazy to everybody. I do like to break up like cookies or brownies or something and put it in my cereal with
Bro,
my
listen,
cereal.
welcome.
Oh my God, so good. So good. That's delicious.
I'm with you on that, bro. I can't even lie to you, bro. The cookie one especially, I'm with it. But I need the cookie to be I need the cookie to be hard though.
It needs
'Cause
to
I
be
don't
a
want
hard
it to be
cookie,
too
so
it gets
can
too
soak
soft
up
if
the
it goes
milk.
into there.
We gonna vibe, dog.
Bro, they
Man.
need to know, bro. They need to know there's levels to this.
We gotta
thing,
put
you know
them
what
on
I'm
there.
saying?
If you're watching this, try that tomorrow morning. Don't try it tonight because it's breakfast. But try it in the morning, please.
What's your weirdest? I know I asked a question, but what's your weirdest combination that you've ever put together of food? Like, what's one of like your
Weirdest
weirdest
combination? Are we
ones?
talking snacks or just like a
Yeah, like
real
a
meal?
snack. It could be a snack. It could be a
Ooh,
meal.
all right.
Anything that you've put
So
together as a combo.
this drives anyone who is close to me or was close to me crazy. I'll break up a snack cake, a brownie maybe, and a cookie or maybe some cake or something like that. Just different consistencies of solid desserts. And then I'll also pour milk in there. You know how people eat cookies? It started with just cookies, but cookies with milk, like dipping it just felt like it took too much time. So I used to break cookies up and then just scoop it out with a spoon. I'm like, that seems like a more efficient way to do it. And then I went off the deep end. And so now I have this chocolate concoction I eat like every now and then when I really have a sweet tooth. And oh my God, it is delectable.
Listen, I'm not even mad at it. I'm gonna have to try that as well. Can't lie. I'm
Bro,
gonna have to try
check it
that
out. Check it
still.
out. Favorite snacks together, put
I'm
it
gonna
with the
check it out.
milk. See what it's hitting for.
I'm gonna check that out because I can't lie to you. That's probably up my alley and street. To be honest, something I need to.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I like sweet things. So if you can mix a few sweet things together, do you know what I'm saying
Right.
to you? Then you know what I'm
And see
saying.
how it
That's
tastes.
cold.
Only thing though, only thing. This will like not permanently, obviously, but like stay in the fuck out the cup. Like my apologies, stay in the cup though. And you are gonna need to wash that like right away. Otherwise, you're gonna do a lot of scrubbing later.
Yeah,
Only
I get that.
caveat.
I get that. To be honest, I get that. Yeah, I'm with that. I'm gonna try it though. I'm gonna try it. Listen, I think you've passed our human verification. You know, you are a human being. Definitely with that last question, you definitely are a human being, and we love to see it as well. All right, cool. Listen, Aaron. Let's get into some conversation. But before we get into about the show, I want to get to know you a bit better because you are somebody way before the show. The show just
True.
puts you on, so we want to get to know you a bit better. So my opening question is: who is Aaron, and what is Aaron's story?
Mm. Aaron is me, I hope. But as far as Aaron's story, I think I dove into one of the more positive, or not more positive, more active, consciously active aspects of it earlier. Like always been in a from babyhood, always in the anime, and Japanese culture and Eastern culture in general, more than I was in the Western culture. Um, Beyond that, my parents were young. They weren't teenage young. They were just beginning of adulthood young when they had my sister and I. So they did their best, but obviously you're gonna make mistakes as a parent anyway, especially young when you're still trying to live your life because they're both young, attractive people. So they really trying to live, and then they would try it, it wouldn't work. I think watched my parents try to work it out a good 3-4 times before they were like, yeah, nah. But honestly, my sister and I always thought like, yeah, y'all really don't mix like that. Um, what else? My sister and I were raised like twins. I actually not it's not like me too for real, but like I've had like 3 different female babysitters that probably crossed some boundaries. Not probably, definitely crossed some boundaries they shouldn't have crossed. I waited till I was 18 to tell my mama about it. I think that probably plays a big deal in who I am as a person now as well. And then also, there was a period of time where me, my mom, and my sister were homeless when I was like 8-ish, which is close to the age my son is now. Um, I always asked my parents like why, and they had conflicting answers. I felt like I got my answer to that when I was older. My mother was really overbearing, um, like very overprotective, very like live in a bubble, but also she was a little bit aloof. Like can't really explain it too much. It's difficult to articulate because on the one hand, it's like, oh my God, my baby coddle. But on the other hand, like let's say I'm like trying to be all up under her in her space, which my son does to me now. And it's kind of like, boy, get out my face. On the other hand, my dad was very do-it-yourself, very hands-off parenting, very independent, but at the same time, very affectionate, very, oh, kids can lay up under me, whatever. Um, that was a very interesting opposite and balance that helped make who I am today. I was pretty lame, honestly, up until about 8th grade. Like very much bullied. Um, I was small but strong, but I had glasses. Pants were flooding, so you could see like my whole sock, like it was a Michael Jackson concert. Um, I didn't really start gaining popularity until one, anime started getting cooler, but in two, I had a really nice body by 8th grade. So it was just like, okay, we can hear what you say now. And then in high school, was when I like started peaking with popularity and looks, and that's when I started spending more time with my father because my parents live separately. So I'm like hanging out with my dad a lot. We're working out. I'm learning different aspects of what it is to be a man, and also this is when I'm interacting more with people now because suddenly there's more people that want to be around me. So I'm kind of navigating between social anxieties I have from being lame to, oh, now girls think I'm cute. Oh, now people find the fact that I look like this and I have these interests to be intriguing and different. Um, I knew I definitely didn't want to go to high school in Chicago, not high school, but college in Chicago. But I did want to do music still and other creative things. So I decided to go to Clark Atlanta for college. That's a school in Georgia, by the way, if you don't know. So it's very far from Chicago, which is where I grew up. I went down there and I was campus famous for a while. That was fun. Second semester of college, all the way up until I was 26, I was with the same woman who was my ex-girlfriend, was the mother of my child. And this woman actually, it was like the second relationship I've been in, but the only adult relationship I've been in up to my mid-20s. She's very emotional, very affectionate, very clingy. Well, she was only clingy like the first year or two. After that, it was more so just like we lived together and it's like whatever. But it was certain things that I really enjoyed about our relationship. And there's other things where it was like, okay, we lived together from 18 to 26. I would like to live on my own. I lived with my sister and my mama before that. There were certain aspects of who she was that are the exact antithesis of Jodi. They're opposites. So later on, after we broke up and I'm seeing the type of person Jodi is and being literally the opposite of the person who I was last with and being similar to me in a lot of ways from what I saw, it was like, okay, this girl's interesting. And she be taking half naked pictures. Let me slide her DM real quick. So that's how we moved from ex-girlfriend to Jodi. And it wasn't like immediate either. It was a couple months for sure of playing the field before I just went in her DMs. But I think the initial attraction was someone so similar to me, but so opposite of whom I last dealt with. It was like, oh, what's up with you? It's pretty inclusive synopsis, I would say. There's a lot of like different details or whatever kind of combed over, but more or less that's me.
No, I appreciate you sharing that, man. Thank you, man, because it was good little synopsis up until where we are now as well. And there's a lot of things I want to even talk about because what you shared is quite deep and everything as well. So obviously, just you said obviously the antithesis of Jodi, and obviously you're living together with your ex-girlfriend. You had lived from 18 to 26. But you also kind of mentioned a lot about your childhood as well. The fact that you were raised with your sister. It's like it's almost like your twins.
Basically,
you watched your parents work it out 3 or 4 times. The fact that you had 3 babysitters who actually kind of you felt like crossed the line, but you didn't let your parents know, or at least you didn't let your mom know until you were 18.
Neither one.
Yeah. I'll say.
I didn't tell either one, so you had it right. Yeah.
Okay. Oh wow. Okay. So you've had to hold that in for a little while. You said obviously your mother was a little bit overprotective, but at the same time when you would get close, then she would kind of push you away. You mentioned obviously but you could get close to your father, and then you kind of mentioned about how you felt like you were a little bit lame into the 8th grade, and then you kind of peaked in high school for yourself, and you were spending more time with your father, and I guess that kind of probably brought more of a growth for you as well. I guess I want to start from the very beginning, right?
Okay.
Because obviously, like I said, parents, you were young. Parents, were young also having you. They're trying to figure out themselves, probably trying to figure out how to be parents at a very young age as well. Tell me a little bit more about that, what you kind of experienced growing up in the household then. So before, it all breaks apart and everything. Tell me a little bit more about what you experienced from your lens, your eyes. What was that experience like growing up in that household with your mom and father?
There's a lot of anger for sure. Because how you gonna leave me with these kids? You feel me? It wasn't always like I'm equal back and forth between both houses. It was more like my dad was like every other weekend plus whenever he could, for real. Because he's trying to get established financially. And so is my mom because she doesn't have him and his stability in the house or out of the house. So a lot of yelling, a lot of upsetness from my mom's side, anger towards him for putting us in this position. Every now and then when I reminded her of him, that there was definitely some issues there. But I mean, part of it is nature, part of it is nurture. It just is what it is. Like I said, a lot of my memories from early childhood are my sister and I, for real. Just the two of us, just watching anime or going out or watching just a lot of people don't know what this is, but VHS, like cassette tapes in the living room. If it wasn't anime, then it was those orange Nickelodeon cassette tapes or old Disney movies. And that was a strong part of it. I used to hang out with my cousins a lot at my grandmother's house. Both of my grandmothers, really. My mom's mom, I would hang out with, like, it was a bunch of people my age. Like, it was, I think, like 8 of us about the same age. And all of our parents were young because they're all cousins. They're just out here being fast in the ad. But a lot of my male cousins, yes, they did pick on me, but also I was the youngest. This is what it was. But they also happened to have an interest in anime. So it was an interesting dynamic with them. And then my dad's side of the family, nothing but women. I am the only male. Bunch of female cousins and my sister and my auntie and my grandma. My dad was another guy, obviously. But if I'm with them, I might be with him or he might be working somewhere making money. As far as like adventures with my mom, I don't know. She used to take us like on her shopping expeditions, and my dad would take us a lot of fun places. Like my dad was definitely the fun parent by default, but also I remember going to a lot of construction sites and having to learn what he does. And every now and then he'll like pay me to learn something so I can actually pay attention. That's pretty much most of early childhood for real. Like aside from the moment where we end up homeless and whatever life was like at school.
I appreciate you sharing that. Obviously, like you said, growing up in a household, then a lot of that, I guess, the good moments as well with you and your sister watching anime as well, which is really cool. It's nice to have that relationship with your sibling as well. And for you, like I said, obviously you grew up in a household where there's a little bit more, there's a little bit of tension, I guess, the anger, the tension, and you kind of explained it quite well. Obviously, the frustrations in terms of having to raise kids and the financial constraints as well. In that sense, how did that impact you though? So like obviously having to witness that, having to see that, having to feel that tension, how did that impact you?
I would say definitely on a conscious level, it just made me realize like one, I don't want them together because whenever they're together, they argue. But two, I don't know. I think that probably skewed my view on relationships for sure. Mine and my sister's, because I'm not gonna put all her business out there, but neither of us. At least my sister was looking for a boyfriend, but at the same time, she doesn't take relationships too seriously. It's probably been like one guy, 2 at the most, who she's really liked, and the rest is just like I could take or leave y'all for real. And she be on some P shit. She be playing with it. Me, I didn't want a relationship at all in high school. Like not for real, for real. I did still want to talk to girls. I just didn't see the point. And then in college, I did want a relationship eventually after college, like maybe like 26, 27, but accidentally ended up getting into a monogamous one. But I had certain views. So like on the one hand, I didn't really want one, but on the other hand, it was like, well, this is what normal people do. You know what I'm saying? You like somebody and they check off a certain amount of boxes. And if they're loyal to you, why not be good to them in return? So more so I entered a monogamous relationship because I was dealing with a girl that I liked and I thought was beautiful on a consistent basis. And it seemed like I should conform to this societal norm. I should be like everybody else, as opposed to pursuing whatever my definitions of the world are. And that's really how we end up here. Now, am I a person who is monogamous as far as relationships go? I definitely try to be if I'm in one, but also I'm not in a rush to ever be in a relationship, a serious one, I think, because of what I saw.
When you say you're not in a, you have certain ideas about monogamous relationship. What were those ideas at the time? Then some of those ideas.
I think one, that 20s in general, I don't think you should be in a monogamous relationship in your 20s, honestly, just because you just became, at least if you live in a major city, I'll say that. If you live in a major city or near a major city, your 20s is not the time for a monogamous relationship, especially your early 20s, but any of it at all. Maybe your late 20s at the earliest. You just became an adult. You just got freedom. there's all these other like attractive somethings around you. I'm not saying you should like be super invested in hookup culture, but I feel like that's the time to date around. That's the time to build yourself. That's the time to find yourself and not end up in those situations. Now, could a baby happen? Yes. But I mean, that's just the dice you roll. But I definitely feel like that's a time for you and your development. And that's how I've always felt. So it's not that I'm against monogamous relationships as a whole, but I just, one of the things I felt like was the reason they didn't work out for real. One, their birthday is like almost the same day, but two, they the same age and really, really young. Like, it's like, y'all just jumped into it too early. And maybe there is this stereotype or stigma that men cheat a lot, especially like throughout life. But one, I like to see it good in everybody. But two, women cheat also. And three, I feel like maybe there would be less of that if you spent more time with yourself and spent more time trying to find yourself and your ideas and your ethics and your boundaries early on. And if you had those things by the time you were serious about a partner, they might be serious about you around that same time. And I could be wrong, but that's just how I see it. Also, before we let this subject go, I don't feel like monogamy is the only way to be, because everybody tries to put their own definition of love. If you don't fit this definition, you don't love me. But everybody doesn't love the same way. Everybody doesn't have the same love languages. Everybody doesn't express their emotions the same way. Everybody doesn't even communicate the same way, and we speak the same language. So to say that we have to be in a monogamous relationship or you don't love me, that's your definition. And I'm not saying that because I want to be polygamous. I'm saying that because people are trying to be too exclusive with such an organic idea that can't be solidified in concrete. Like the only real definition of love that should be concrete is a scientific biological one, where your receptors see somebody and endorphins fly off in the brain like, damn, that person's fine. Beyond that, it's your own definition. And if you knew how to communicate well enough, and the other person you're speaking to does as well, that's really the time for y'all to discuss what y'all both think love is. And that should be something done in the dating phase before y'all decide to make it official. My bad. That was ranty of me.
No, well, definitely intriguing to kind of hear your perspective on that. I'm not mad at that. I think that's an interesting perspective. There's parts I agree with, parts I would love to explore a bit more, but I definitely don't disagree with some of the points that you made. So it's intriguing to kind of hear your perspective. Obviously, especially we now know a bit more of the background, I can understand why some of that thought process comes on. You obviously, spoke about obviously the fact that you personally, obviously, you mentioned it. So I guess obviously it was an important moment for you, being homeless at 8. I want to kind of know from your perspective, why was that so impactful for you? Because you've mentioned it in your story. So why was that such an impactful moment? What was that? What was happening at that time for you?
I think it's just because I really wanted to understand as a child. And it was something that I thought about for years. Like for the next 12 years, maybe, it was something that was on my brain. I couldn't fathom it because on the one hand, it happened because my parents decided to move in together. One of the times they tried to work out, they tried to move back in together into one of my dad's houses. So they're trying it out. Life is cool. Life is great, actually, for me. Like, I didn't have my own room. I shared it with my sibling, but it was like my cousins came over all the time. The house was so cool. I love the neighbors. My 8th birthday party was hilarious, looking back. And it was just like out of nowhere, the ground rips asunder under you and you're falling and you don't know where you're going to land. And when I asked both of them, the fact that their answers were more so blaming each other than trying to help me understand. I mean, granted, I'm also contribute to that with them being young, but it was just like, I just want to know what's going on. And so I felt like I never had an answer until I was like maybe 21 years old, and I had to go through life on my own to decide if I had the answer. And I have my answer in my mind, but your reality is not everybody else's reality. So I think I found a way for me to accept that this is more than likely what happened based on what I went through and based on who they are and their characters. but it stuck with me for so long. It's hard to not mention, for real.
Why was it such a why was it such a such a moment that you had to understand it? What is it about that moment that you have to understand it? You have to understand so much for you.
You know what? Because even though I was kind of used to my mom not always giving me the exact answer to what I asked, it wasn't something that was common to my father. Right. So I'm like 8 years old. So is my sister. And I'm like, hey, why we move out of dad's house? Or why are we in this position we're in now? And my mom was like, well, your dad kicked all of us out. And so, of course, I'm still spending time with my dad, at least on the weekends, if no other time. So I still see him, type shit. And I'm asking him the same question. Why don't we live here anymore? And his answer is, well, I only kicked your mom out for whatever reason, right? He said the reason is just, I don't think that was the reason for real. But he said the reason, and it was like she said she was going to take y'all with her. Which, she's a custodial parent. She has the legal right to do that. So it's just like, okay, could have been either one of these. And it bugged me that I didn't have a complete answer. I like having answers. I like there being a logical way to articulate something. And here's the layout, like broken down on a molecular level. This is what this is. This is what this means. And then being able to digest that, like, okay, this information makes sense. Or even if it doesn't make sense for me, I understand how this makes sense for you. That's how my brain has worked for as long as I can remember. And for it to be something, an event in my life that I learned is not something that's common. For me to not be able to digest that information, it's like, well, and excuse my language with this again, but like, what the fuck?
I get it. I mean, I get it. You're a person that needs to understand the whys of a situation, right?
I do, very badly, very badly.
So obviously, in the end, you have to kind of, I guess, make do with the answer that you got in that sense. But I think, obviously, I guess I like to forget the why too. So we're both in the same boat, right?
Gift and the curse, gift and the curse.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So we're in the same boat. I guess obviously I'm just trying to. I'm wondering why it was, because I know that obviously you have to understand it, right? I guess obviously my perspective is what was it that was sticking out to you though? Because I get it, like because obviously you end up being homeless, but what was sticking out to you that you had to almost understand it, like for you, like because it seems like it's something that you had to grasp and get it, which I get that part. I'm like you, but why was that such a moment that you had to understand it? What were you searching for in that sense? Because it almost seems like it was something else that was for you. You were trying to. There's something else there's a reason why it was so touching for you in that moment. That's why I was actually trying to understand.
None of it made sense, man. Like, they each had their own places, right? And then y'all trying this family thing, and we live together. And when I really think back on it, both of them was kind of doing dumb shit that was like just not clicking in my brain at the time. It was wrong. But I don't know. Even though I actually preferred them being apart, it's like we just became one family. And as much as I don't care for y'all two to be in a relationship as a whole, again, it was a long time before I started going against societal norms. We were normal-ish. Y'all not married or anything, but it's like we'd be having family holidays. We have family movie nights, family game nights. It was like everything you see on a Disney screen damn near for like maybe a year. And, obviously you have moments of kids irritating the parents and things like that. And it's like, we're finally one whole piece. Next thing I know, I look up and it's shattered. And no one can tell me why. We were finally normal and now we're not. And no one can tell me why. And all I've ever asked since I started speaking to you guys, because side note, I actually didn't speak to adults at all until I was 4. Well, my dad, but no one else. Um, I'm asking you why, and no one can tell me. No one can summarize this for me beyond just pointing fingers and playing the blame game. Like I care whose fault it is. That's not what I asked you. That doesn't help me understand why my world had to change. But yeah, here we are.
Well, I get that, man. So for you, in the sense, it's the fact that it's gone from we're finally normal, we're finally settled. You know what I mean? Okay, maybe I didn't want you guys together, but okay, y'all are making it work. And then now all of a sudden, that dream comes crashing down, but nobody's actually explaining why it's broken down the way it has, or the why we're now homeless. Like you said, things are not adding up in a sense for
Yeah.
you. You know? Wow. That's quite heavy.
Yeah, but I mean, like I said, on the one hand, I got my answer. I actually got my answer in my own life experiences. But also, if I like look back and I really break down everything that I realized was happening around me, it was an inevitability, for real. It's very unlikely that it wouldn't have gone that way. Maybe it didn't have to go like the homeless way, but like the whole normal thing, lasting, it wasn't gonna last.
Is there an underlying belief now that your relationships will end up the same way, where there'll be a reason, there will be no quote unquote reason or understanding of why the relationship goes pear shaped and it doesn't work? Is there an underlining, deep seated, maybe kind of thought that maybe that monogamous relationships might go that way for you, or go the same way that it went for your parents in some shape or form?
Yes and no. Um, I would say that's why I try and seek out people whom I have a great deal of commonalities with. Because when I'm dealing with someone, and this has been my thought process in adulthood, because I've only one official girlfriend as an adult, but plenty of women that I've dealt with. Not plenty like, I'm just out here getting the craziest bodies, but like plenty of women that I've dealt with while dealing with an individual. I don't know if this is common or not, but I definitely try and think out how much sense this makes, if this is going to end well. And I would definitely say a strong 90% of the time when I do that, it's like, this isn't going to end well. I'm going to enjoy the ride, but this isn't going to end well. It's not, because this reason, there's no way we're going to actually end up together. However, you kind of fine, and I'm enjoying this right now. So I'm going to see what's up. There's only been 2 occasions for real where I didn't think so. And even those didn't work out, which it didn't destroy my faith in the ability for things to work out. I still follow that same cycle, because that's what makes sense to me. Finding someone with whom I have a great deal of commonalities with, but also a good compatibility with. But it doesn't always work, clearly.
I guess I want to ask a question. Does monogamy, or does monogamy make sense to you? What I mean by that, I know what you said earlier on, that you have a different perspective. But what I mean by this is, do you understand monogamy? And I'm not talking about monogamy as such, I'm talking about it in terms of the relationship. Do you understand monogamy? Do you understand the mechanics and the schematics of it?
I
Because
have
yeah.
a perspective of it. It'd be difficult for me to say I fully understand it. I have my perspective of it. So if for a long time, I kind of felt like it just seems like and a lot of people might feel this way. I don't know if I entirely feel this way now, but I was just like, it just seems so unnatural to be attracted to so many people and just be with one person forever. And like, you do that, especially as the world is evolving. Like, yeah, they did that back in the day, but like, they didn't even really do that back in the day. It was just they did shit in secret, and it was harder to find out their secrets. But for me now, especially with being somebody who actually likes to go to the gym and have routine and discipline in my life, to me, what monogamy seems like is finding somebody who like makes sense and like maybe not 100% make you happy, but y'all can meet each other like 80%, right? And it's about the discipline of knowing like, okay, I have this, there's no reason to go somewhere else. It's less, I mean, it is about love and having a relationship. But at the end of the day, it's about, if you choose this lifestyle, you need to be as disciplined as a fitness influencer, or even any kind of influencer, really, because like influencers they treat it like a job. And there's a certain amount of discipline that goes into it. Someone who has routine in their lives that they do not deviate from, because they realize that whatever that routine caters to is a necessity. It is the analogous of that, but for amorous relationships.
Yep, I understand that. You know, I definitely get the perspective and where you're coming from as well. I'm intrigued to find out your thoughts as to looking back. Obviously, like you said, you had a moment where, for instance, your mum was kind of overbearing, overprotecting, but at the same time, kind of rejecting as well of you when you did get close. I want to know a little bit more about that, because obviously that's quite interesting, and obviously, like you said, your dad was more accepting of that. So I'd love to know a little bit more about that and how that's impacted you as well,
Yeah.
because that's quite a painful
We,
actual aspect as well. You know.
we could take a dive. I don't think young me ever saw it as painful. I think it's probably something that was a seed planted that like reared the actual plant and leaves and things like that later on in life. But when I was, and I've noticed this is actually like a commonality in my paternal bloodline, I would say, because I have a younger brother. I have two younger brothers, one on my mom's side, one on my dad's side, and I have a son. So I'm basing this off reflecting on my own actions and observing my father's son and my son. So when I was a kid, I was a really lovey-dovey, hyperactive, affectionate child. And you would think all kids are like that, but apparently they're not. But I was, especially so even. And I loved to like be all up under my parents. Like, I don't know, I guess I wanted to live in their skin or something, but I used to always want to be up under them until I'm playing my video games. Then y'all can leave me alone. But I really want to be all up under y'all. And so relentlessly, even, I would just be all up under my mom, all up under my dad, all up under my godfather. And I just wanted to be close to them. And when it came to my mom specifically, it was more like, get out of my space. It wasn't always in a mean way either. It was just like, move. And at the time, I really didn't care as a child. It was like, okay, I'm gonna be back in 5 minutes. I don't care, whatever. I'm a kid. Kids, you don't really perceive that. You just living your life. It's not much to anything. But as an adult, I think it definitely gave me a certain coldness and distance, even as a teenager, for real. I often have to express to people I like to be alone, really. I do have somewhat of a social battery. You can see an extroverted side of me for sure. But my happiest place is being alone in my routine. But at the same time, I also do love being around my kid as well. I just love being alone. And girls I would talk to in high school, or even when I got in that relationship from early to mid adulthood, well, early adulthood, mid-20s, it's still early adulthood for me, for real. There was that coldness and distance. Meanwhile, there was her trying to get close to me and chipping away little by little and succeeding at that task. It was just like, why are you like this? I don't know. I just like being alone. I like having my space. Never really thought about it. And then also my son, he is the same way that I was as a child. So likes to be all up under his parents and our skin, things like that. And I realized that as far as parenting is concerned, I'm a mix of the two. There's definitely moments where it's like, come be up on me, whatever. But then there's also moments where he'll try to get all up under me, and it's just like, can you go? And judge where you want to. It's just, I don't know. I think it probably a conditioned reaction. It's not on purpose. It's not like I hate spending time around my kid, because I don't. I actually love it. We have the most fun together. And like I said, there are times where we are all up under each other. It doesn't matter. But then there's just that other side where it's like, bro, can I breathe? It's probably, so between me being distant from people in general and liking to be alone, and that maybe 40 to 50% of the time where my son is all up under me and it's like, give me my space, those are probably the two most recognizable ways that I've seen it manifest itself in my everyday life.
First of all, I want to appreciate the honesty because I think a lot of people might not be honest like in that way that you have been. That is, I appreciate that honesty because I think there's healing and there is also an aspect of being able to be so aware that allows other people to be able to understand you and have empathy for you as well. As well. I definitely, understood and empathized with you in that moment when you said about, having those moments where you wanted to be close to your parents, at least specifically your mum, and then you felt like, that she was like she wanted her space. You know what I mean? I can remember some moments when I was young as well that maybe my mum might not want her space, but she'll tune out. So she's not really paying attention. You know what I mean? Or go to my dad and he's not really paying attention, or he wants to do his work. So he's not attentive to me. You know what I mean? So you kind of then end up kind of learning that, okay, leave them alone. You know what I mean? Like, leave them alone. And so I ended up becoming very self-sufficient. You know what I mean? No point trying to rely on parents for my emotional needs, and I ended up kind of, I guess, probably putting the emotional needs aside and just learning that life is just about getting stuff done. We ain't got time to really delve deep into these emotions and stuff like that. But you said something really interesting, right? And my brain was like firing these neurons, boom, 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 as you were speaking. And because it's intriguing that in your situation, the pattern is repeated. So, for instance, like you said, you experienced a situation where you grew up and the parent, caregiver, your mother, wanted her space. And then you realize, without even trying, you are similarly having the same energy, right? You need your space, right? So in a sense, it's a repeated pattern. And then it made me think, because obviously you and Jodi situation, she gives off that same energy, my perspective anyway, that she needs a space.
There's definitely there's some of that there.
Yeah. So I was just my neurons were going off like, okay, I can see the patterns of what's happening here for you, but I want to keep it back on you because, like I said, I think this is really powerful. Obviously, you've gone through a lot in that space, right? So I don't know if you wanted to kind of chip back on that, what I just kind of said before I kind of asked another question in that space.
I mean, before we move on, low key, we could touch on the Jodi subject a little bit, because I remember in episode 2, everybody was looking at us crazy because she wanted to. I think she was like painting her nails or something. And I'm in like the hot tub or pool or whatever, and they're like, "What's wrong with y'all?" And it's like, I've waited my whole life for space. It just so happens we're in a mansion in LA and we both want our space at the same time. Because remember, I searched for people with commonalities. So it's like, okay, that worked for me. Never had this. Like, we cool, we together. We can also be apart. That was, to me, it started off feeling like a perfect balance. But yeah, it's definitely a strong coveting of my own environment that is either A, isolated, or B, entirely under my control if I can help it.
Do you feel you're most safest? Okay, let me say this. Okay, like do you feel you're most safest when you are in isolation, when you are on your own? Is that the most comfort that you have?
Yes,
for you. Okay.
I'll definitely say so.
I understand that.
I mean,
Okay, so obviously, like I said, you were then, you got to spend some time with your father as well later on, because obviously you said you were bullied, lame in 8th grade. Kind of, I mean, you were quite, truthful and quite honest in the description of what you were like in 8th grade, before the 8th grade, I guess, in a sense. Tell me a little bit about this. You were bullied, you were lame, like, from your perspective, what was happening there for you?
For me, so we talk about like reaching up until the 8th grade when I started to kind of like blow up some. Every now and then it was getting pushed around, a lot of like teasing and jokes and things like that. And of course, I don't know if this is like this everywhere, but certainly in American culture with young Black kids. Of course, everybody teases everybody, but for me, it was a more sensitive thing because it felt like I was like an easy target that everybody would jump on. So it's like it's not just one or two people, or it's not just like a specific friend group or something like that. It's everybody just on my ass. It's like, all right, well, dang, can I breathe? Eventually, there was this defense mechanism created to just like make the jokes back. That's everybody, right? And I'm being general when I say that, but it feels like it's everybody, where everybody gets that defense mechanism, like make jokes back. So of course, I started making jokes back, and a lot of them started to be funny, and of course, that's cool. But also, even with having that and being able to bond with some of people, some of them, it's just lighthearted fun. But then others is like, no, we really on your ass. So it's like, all right, take that one to the chin. Anime is weird. Why do you watch that? Why do you look at that? You're abnormal. Your glasses, they make you look like Arthur. Your head shape makes you look like a bird. Pants always flooding, extra skinny. Like it was so many jokes. And then I used to get like a bald fade, so I was like a bald little kid. Not for real, but yeah, that didn't help either. It was so. I guess because I was such an easy target, it was so many things to pick on. And then also people would push me around as well because I was so small. So it was just like, take my seat at lunch. I remember some kid took my seat at the lunch table. Like my lunch is still there. He took my seat and I physically tried to move him, but he was bigger than me. And it felt like I popped my shoulder out of place. Like defenseless little skinny kid. And it felt awful. It made me feel, not just that moment, all of it made me feel embarrassed of myself for real. It was just like, what the craziest thing was though, I don't know if it literally fucked with my confidence because when I went home and I looked in the mirror, all I saw was handsomeness for real. I was like, man, these people at school really just can't see. Like they're blind, and that's so sad. And it might sound funny to hear it now, but like that's what I really thought. I was like, they're crazy. Because look at me. But the me I saw in the mirror, obviously, that's not gonna be the same me they see. They see me from their perspective. I see me from my perspective. So whatever. But it was just, I don't know. There was this self-love somewhere that was like, yeah, nah, we that guy. We in larva form. But it was also that part that was like, damn, maybe I should keep more of me to myself. Maybe I should have that defense on ready for when people try and say something to me or try and do something to me. I don't like the fact that I'm small and I couldn't move this guy out of my seat. Granted, had I moved him out of my seat, it would have been a fight. It would have been a whole escalation when I really think about it. It probably went the best way it could have, even if that meant bad for me. But that lean between that and me watching, I feel like you do watch anime, low key from something you said earlier, but a lot of them train, right? So took karate, took a little bit of taekwondo, did a lot of like push-ups and sit-ups like all the time. Used to wear leg weights around the house. Like I really was trying to boss up. This started happening when I was like 9 or 10. I really was trying to be him type shit. And of course, my calisthenics workouts was definitely something to behold around the house. Eventually, my dad takes me under his wing. And he's like, yo, let's lift the weights. Next thing you know, came back the next school year or that last school year before going to high school. And it's like, bro, are you on steroids or something? Like, what happened? Like, it was just like for me, I'm watching this. I have one, I already think I'm handsome. Two, I'm watching my muscles develop like Midoriya and My Hero Academia. But for them, it's like in the blink of an eye, this skinny kid with glasses that everybody was bullying before. Even though we all dressed in uniforms, he's now somewhat dressed like someone who's more difficult to bully. Now his body's kind of big. Like, who are you? Different person down there. And I got to see firsthand, people change how they treat you based on your aesthetic and how they perceive you. Because the energy, yeah, some people still try to like make their jokes, or whatever. But I remember I had that defense mechanism where I made jokes back. So that's out the water. You can't push me around no more. I'm huge for my age. Not like height wise, I'm average height, but like definitely like muscle wise, I was huge for my age. Like now it's like I'm competing with top athletes around my age at the school at least. And there wasn't anything anybody could probably tell me that year for real. The only problem was maybe my haircuts, but hey, we gotta have our flaws somewhere.
What did that do to you when you realized your power in that moment? Because it is a power, right? When you come into
Hmm.
school, and I've had that same situation where kids were, mine wasn't necessarily a glow up in that sense. Mine was that they discovered I had a cousin that was in a gang, and everybody was like, let's not mess with this one now. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Shout out to that cousin who was in the gang. You know what I mean? I didn't need it because I didn't want people to treat me differently in that respect. But
Yeah.
now suddenly the people that were trying to do things to me weren't doing it anymore. So what was that like for you when you finally had the power in your hands now that, you know what? People can't push you around no more. People can't just do whatever they want. What was that like now coming into that space where you now have power in your hands?
Interesting question. So before I get into that, I want to preface this by saying I was often one of the smartest kids in the class already. So I already had a certain ego to me because no matter what they said, what they could never say was, I can outsmart Aaron. Never. Or anything that could down my intelligence, it will never be said by somebody who went to elementary school with me, at least not from that time period. So already I have a bit of an ego. So at this point, I come back and people are treating me differently. While there's still some humility in the, like, I remember what shit was for the past 8 years, there's also that arrogance almost that it's like, oh yeah, I'm him now. Like, don't talk to me no kind of way. And it definitely went to my head for real. I don't know if it left my head for real until my 20s, but yeah, it was definitely, but it was a balance though. This on the one hand, it's like I'm arrogant, like, yeah, I'm him, but at the same time, I've also now grown to hide parts of myself. Like, granted, yes, I do love anime out loud these days, but like, I would only talk about it with other people who I knew were confirmed to like it. Beyond that, I wasn't talking about that. I wasn't talking about any of my interests for real, because I'm not the stereotypical archetype of a black male in general. So I already don't have a lot in common with these people, but the things I do like, a lot of them don't fuck with. Yeah, no. So it was a combination of hiding parts of myself on some superhero type shit, and um, feeling really good about the parts of myself that were right in front of them they couldn't ignore anymore.
Talk to me a little bit about this hiding yourself, please, because I think that's
Yeah.
powerful. When you say you have to hide parts of yourself, what do you mean by that?
Hey, shout out to your son. I love my hoodie too. You should get him one for sure. But hiding parts of myself. So one, I don't like sports for real. I play them. I like going to see basketball in person live, but I don't follow them like that. I don't care to, for real. So like, it's a lot of guys that be coming to school talking about football and basketball, and so to assimilate, there's either that avoidance, like I'm just not going to talk to people at all. But if they're trying to include me in the conversation, now I gotta lie, because I don't want to tell you that I don't watch these things. And typically, for whatever reason, my intuition was just on point with whatever I said. They'd be like, "Yeah, uh huh," and in my back of my head, I'm like, "Wow, that worked." Don't like sports. But I did play them. I played sports. So basketball, tennis. I was never good at basketball. Football, wasn't good at that either. Wrestling, boxing. I did a lot of sports. But I did not like them. Not watching them anyway. So guys are talking about sports, can't relate. Guys are talking about sneakers, can't relate. I never really was a sneakerhead for real. Every now and then I see a shoe and be like, oh, that's it. But for real, like they'll like know the names, the gear, everything else. And that's a conversation I just could not relate to, could not feel a part of myself in. I might have engaged in it for conformity purposes. Because again, remember, I told you earlier, there's a lot of societal norms I thought I should conform to that did not belong to me. Um, what else? What else? What else? Obviously, anime. I'll be so secretive at this point. Like, granted, if it's somebody else whom I know like enjoys it, we can converse about it. But beyond that, it damn near don't exist for a lot of conversation and a lot of interactions. Or like my sense of humor, I didn't really make jokes like that when I really think about it. Like when I was in school, like I would laugh a lot with certain people, but for the most part, with interacting with people, I didn't really like to make jokes. I didn't think people would find it funny for real outside of like a specific demographic of individuals. So it was just like, there's no point. I would change my conversation style just to shallow things that I knew that I heard everybody speaking about. It just it seemed like none of you get me anyway. So there's no point in y'all. If you don't get me, there's no reason for you to give you me. What's the point? And that lasted a long time too. That wasn't just then. Like, granted, I was a little bit more of myself in high school. There was still like change conversation or code switch based on who I'm around. The people I ended up getting, actually, funny enough, in high school, my two closest friends, we ended up being really popular at this public school. I went to public school for like a year and a half. It was me and my two homeboys. All loved anime, all really attracted to women, all really in shape, all fighters also. They watched sports more than I did, and they smoked. I've been sober for pretty much all my life. But aside from those two things, we were all three of us like the same person. And it just so happens that we're really popular in this school. I remember I was talking to one of my old schoolmates. She was like, y'all just swore y'all ran the school. I'm like, we didn't. So I didn't hide myself from those closest to me. But when I would speak to just random people in the school, it was more of a facade. It felt like a character. It was a piece of me, but only a piece of me. So like it was a really charismatic piece, and that's all you get. You don't get the deeper stuff. You don't get to know like what I really like to do, where I really like to be. Like any of that wasn't for people. Even in college, I grew out of that shell during college, but it started off like that as well. Just as, and people never got me before. I guess I felt like they weren't gonna get me, except for the people closest to me, until, I don't know, the same time where I started to like question other societal norms. I came to this, like, I saw somebody's son is watching this. Now this realization was just like, F it. Like, who cares? Low-key, person that's streaming, if your son like this, I also got like an Akatsuki blanket behind me.
It's kind of cold, I can't lie. I rate it. So obviously for you, like you said, what was then your thought process? I'm careful to kind of choose the words and say, because obviously it sounds to me like you were hiding parts of yourself with people that might not know you very well. Like, what was you afraid of? But I guess obviously, what was your thought process of what were you thinking was going to happen if you were to share yourself with your true authentic self with people who were strangers? Well, like, is it just what would you think was going to happen?
So I felt what it was like to be that bullied little kid, and I felt what it was like to have overwhelming acceptance. And between the two, I very much enjoyed the warm comfort of overwhelming acceptance. Even though I knew it came from a shallow place, I knew it was something I could control. So if I had to choose between being that rejected, bullied little boy again and being the charismatic facade of, there's an article about this too called The Cool Pose. It's a really good read. Being the charismatic facade that went along with the aesthetic that I had, it was much easier to do that. And I call it a facade because it's not all of me, but again, it was a part of me. It wasn't like I was being a different person entirely. It was just, I was just giving you the part of me that has been field tested to be successful with interacting with individuals. And of course, it is a part of my personality, but it's just, I didn't want to go back to that place. And it took a long, hard look in the mirror when I was a young adult to realize that I don't think I'll ever go back to that place, even if I decide to be myself and throw all societal norms to the wayside. Because, again, there was always that seed of self-love in me as well. But it's just like, one, I've proven that I can be accepted by you people, and it's cool. But I'd rather just be me and all of me, for real, if I can. And so, in most situations now in life, it's more so me being all of me, but also, assimilate where you see fit. Like if you're in the corporate office, maybe don't be cussing all the time. Or if you are in a public place, obviously, like this isn't the time to take off your shirt just because it's hot. Like basic common sense things. But it was just for a long time being scared of going back to that place until I realized I'll never be back in that place.
I get that. I think um, we all want the human need is to be accepted, right? Right, and the
Hmm.
greatest fear of any human being is to be isolated, because human beings are social creatures, right? And obviously, just by you explaining your background and what you've been through, there was some rejection there, right? So you don't
Right.
want to experience that now with friendships now, especially if you've gained it. You know what I'm saying? If you've gained acceptance, like you said, you don't want to have to go back to a place where you're now being quote unquote rejected, right? So yeah, you're going to, like I said, you're hiding parts of yourself with people that you're not really sure about what their response might be yet, until you can
Yeah.
gauge it, until it's safe, and then you can kind of show your true self. Which actually,
Hmm.
technically, the term that they actually use is called fawning. So when we fawn, we do it in a sense of what we end up doing is it's our attempt of keeping safe and maintaining connection, and in an unsafe environment, right? The unsafe
Hmm.
environment is somebody who is you're not really sure about, right? You're not sure what their response might be. They might reject you. You don't want to feel those negative feelings, so you fawn. You kind of exaggerate or leave the image that they think they have in their head. You leave it there. You don't touch it. You don't try to take it down. You don't want to add anything that may change it. If they think you're the gym head, I'm the gym head. You know what I mean? I'm not about to change it. If you think I'm the muscle guy, I'm the muscle guy. I'm just not going to change it. But I'm also not going to add my true authentic self to it, because I don't want to tamper that, just in case you're not ready for that, and you might end up rejecting me in that space, which then connects with
Hmm.
the rejection we experienced in childhood, which is a very painful experience. So I'm not about to have that, which I totally get. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we've all got our ways of kind of fawning in our childhoods when we have experienced rejection. I am one of those people, so I know that it's very difficult to come out of that space. Because, like yourself, I like to dabble into the intellect. So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? That's where I kind of, if that's what you believe, that's what you believe. If you believe I'm this guy, I'll let stay that guy. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I definitely, I definitely understand that as well. Okay. So tell me then, obviously, then, how are we getting into a relationship from 18 to 26, you said, right?
Yeah.
How the heck we go from having different ideas about monogamy to ending up in an 8-year relationship? Talk to me about that. How do we end up there, Aaron? Did she
Man,
deceive you? How did she get you there, man? Huh?
she didn't deceive me. You know what it is? So I came to college really to just I was gonna wild out. That was the plan. I was just gonna be straight thought. I'm in a different city. My mama can't find out what I'm doing. Like I got my own space. Like my dorm, I had like a closed off space. Like my roommate wasn't a roommate. It was more like a housemate type situation, own room. And I was really just gonna wild out. So first semester, I'm meeting a bunch of girls. I'm kind of building a roster. I'm messing with some of them. I'm just enjoying. Really, that was probably the most free I've ever been. I have my own space. Again, very important to me. I'm social when I want to be, and I'm flirting with different girls, just enjoying my time for a while, finding myself while also like shopping around the market. It's a very fun experience, right? And I crossed paths with a girl who will eventually become my girlfriend, but at the time there was no real resonance between us. It was just like you're a person, I'm a person, whatever.
Damn, did I lose him? Is that me? Am I in a time warp? Am I the only one that's he's frozen? Is that just me, guys? Or oh, he froze. Okay, I had to make sure, 'cause I wasn't sure if I was in a time warp. You know what I mean? Um, I'm sure. I think someone tried to probably called him. He doesn't realize he'll come back. Okay. Listen, it's been an interesting conversation for the last hour, so he'll come back. It's been interesting for the last hour, so hasn't it? It's been quite the discussion, and then there's some deep, 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 deep ideas that are really being discussed here as well. And no, I mean it's fascinating, especially as a lot of this work, a lot of the stuff that he's going through is gone through. It's a lot of the stuff I'm dealing with clients with on a regular basis as well, doing the coaching. you know, and I'm trying to do as much studying as possible as well, because this is the kind of stuff we want to be able to talk about and be able to heal. Because as I was trying to highlight to him, that he's actually repeating the same pattern, right? So he may not be aware, but he's repeating the same pattern. So it's interesting as well. A lot of us do this. I repeat the same patterns. You know, how my parents treat me, I started doing it in relationships as well. So it's fascinating to kind of see from that perspective. But I think he's back now, so he can finish the point. Captain.
Yeah, I'm on my computer now. My phone died.
Cool.
Yeah, the next semester, I'm actually on the same shit. So there's a lot of girls whose numbers I got or who I connected with, and yeah, MacBook cameras are trash, by the way, people. So y'all can see me on lower res. But now it's like a bunch of other girls like on the list. Like, let's get to it. Instead, there's actually these two Spelmanites I'm supposed to link up with for the night, right? Spelman is another school over there by my alma mater. They're down there on the same campus. I want to say they're next door. Like, you can accidentally wander onto Spelman, Clark, Morehouse. You can accidentally wander onto another campus for real, and be like, "Oh, this isn't my school." But yeah, so a couple girls from a neighboring school. That's what we're linking up with that night. It's also my homeboy's birthday party. So there's this guy. I'm not gonna reveal his name because I'm pretty sure I remember him getting punished. So I'm not gonna just out him like that. But he just drugged every girl at the party damn near. Like, he spiked something in a lot of girls. A lot of women woke up the next day, like, especially since the girls who drink anyway. So it's like, I don't think it's alcohol poisoning. Like, something happened to them. And one of them, you know what I'm saying, ended up kind of date raped. I'm so sorry for her that happened. But when he did that, he also happened to do that to the mother of my child at the time. So granted, she and I, like, we hung around some of the same people, so I'm familiar with her, but neither of us had any interest in each other. I was just like, oh, an attractive girl. I know plenty of those. Anyway, he drugged a lot of women at this party, and she happens to be one of them, but she's trying to find her way out. Like, so she ends up just in a really bad situation. I end up having to take care of her. And I also ended up meeting her mother, who blamed me for that situation. I didn't have any direct cause to it. I helped throw a party, maybe, but I didn't know this was going to happen to anybody. I didn't know he was going to do that. And I don't even drink. I don't promote. I won't say I don't promote drinking. I like to throw events, and so I will say, like, yo, we got out here. But yeah, met her mother. Very, very unpleasant experience. Because just imagine, right? You have a child, and you send your child off to school, and you get a like random call or text from your child's phone saying, "Hey, your child's in the hospital." You don't know which hospital. You don't know what's wrong. You're in a panic. So, of course, her mom was going to be unpleasant when we met for the first time, because I don't know what happened to my child. All I see is you, and my child is in the hospital, which is where Shorty. I had to carry her to the ambulance and everything. Yeah, that's where Shorty ended up. Very, very bad experience. And of course, my first thought is to go off on her like, lady, this ain't, I helped her, you're welcome. But instead, I just kind of took it on the chin, because I'm lost in the city I don't live in. I need to get back home. And I checked on her the next day, just on some cool shit. That's just how I am. I just to make sure Shorty was straight. And I guess she wasn't expecting me to be a nice person or a good person. I'm not saying I'm just always a good person, but I do like try my best to achieve such a title. And so now we're kind of hanging out more. Not gonna lie, this happened off screen, but Jodi had addressed this, and she was like, I kind of trauma bonded, and I was like, oh, well, interesting. But yes, she ends up hanging out with me more. And then there's one night where her dorm's on like the opposite side of campus, and she didn't want to walk all the way to her dorm. And I'll be real, I also was not about to walk all the way to her dorm. So she was not about to have an escort. I was like, you can sleep in my room if you want. And then, yeah, things went where they went. So after I hit that night, I hit it in the morning like J. Cole and Drake the next day, and after that, she was always around. She started moving her stuff in my dorm room. We kind of did, and I'm enjoying her company. Like she seems like a really good person, very very amusing. Um, she's corny. I like corny people. Like it's a nice vibe. She didn't check off every box. I'm sure I didn't check off every box, but she's around all the time. It's like, okay, if you're in my dorm all the time, I might as well cut off my roster because it would be so disrespectful for me to be dealing with you and vetting you and also entertaining other girls on campus. That's crazy. So I more so did it just because it makes sense. And I felt like it was a respectful thing to do. So stop talking to other girls. It's really just us now. After about a month of that, at this point, it's like, all right, let's just, you know what I'm saying, be together. Because I already don't talk to nobody no more. Like, and we spend all our time together anyway. You fucking live in my dorm. What's up? So that's how it was. I ended up getting my own place the next year. It was a loft. It was really dope. A lot of people complain about it, but that's really nice. She was living in the loft. And then I get an apartment after that. It's close to campus, like maybe 2 minutes away. And she lived with me there. And again, granted, it's me trying to be like very, very respectful and conform to societal norms. But there is also this itch in me. Because like I said, I don't think people should be in serious relationships in early adulthood, late teens, early 20s, mid 20s. I don't believe in that. However, I'm living the opposite of the life that I believe. And there was a strong mental conflict for me because of that, because this wasn't my vision. This isn't what I believe in. However, how could I not honor somebody who's honoring me? And so now there's these two conflicting sides of me. And granted, I have my complaints about her as a person. She probably has heard about me too. But for the longest, it just made sense. And then we eventually had a conversation. This is years later. We have a son. We have a car together. We place together. It's just like, what do you want out of life? All right, well, this is what I want out of life. Okay, these two things, there are certain moments where these paths converge, but not for real. Not at the same pace. And that's kind of what ended up breaking us up, specifically because I had that belief. And it was just like, damn near I had to start over and hit the ground running for what I thought 20s were supposed to be. But it was just a lot of inner conflict with me trying to do what I thought was respectful, trying to conform to societal norms instead of doing what I felt like might have been best for all parties.
Thank you for sharing that. It's quite an intriguing story. You were the hero of the story.
That's very good to say. I don't think so.
This is it's given anime arc. I mean, it's given anime arc because you done saved the damsel in distress, and you end up in a relationship. Now, I think what's intriguing, I would love to know a bit more, is that you said, okay, you were trying to live the society's norm, and I wanna challenge that a little bit.
Yeah.
See, because I know you're saying that you wanted to live the society's norm, but it feels like what actually happened is what we call how do we call this? An encroachment, right? What happened was an encroachment. What I mean by that is because it wasn't speedy, because it wasn't like direct, it was kind of like she's living with you. Like we just need to deal what happened here. She was living with you. You already had a roster. You said it would be kind of disrespectful to be messing with her and roster the roster. The whole point of having the roster is so that we can have, you know what I mean, people on the carousel. The whole point of the roster is so that we don't go into monogamy, right? Is to kind of keep ourselves in that space. So I don't know how it would be disrespectful, because if she knew the truth of the fact that you had a roster, why would it be disrespectful? And I think there is something deeper there that maybe you may not be acknowledging. That although you're saying you don't want to, and I was saying, like, society's norms, I think deep down in one's spirit, deep down in one's anime characteristic spirit, there is a love in there. Aaron wants to have the one special love in there because you made it happen. This is not her idea. This is
Yeah,
you.
yeah, no, it's not her.
So talk to me a little bit about that because you know it went from she's staying with you, which you saved her from you know the Mary Clays, saved her from the you know from the outside, and then now she's living with you. Now you lock off the roster, and now you're like, do you know what, maybe I should make this work. Talk to me about that a little bit more. I want to understand that.
Okay, yeah. All right. So, like I said, plans are being a huge stock, of course. And to an extent, it seemed like it was probably gonna be working. But like I said, so she moved in, right? So this wasn't like an immediate thing either. It was like she had spent that night, hit the next day, and now like we're leaving the dorms, but also like my friends know what I'm on, and some of her friends are some of my friends, and so they know what I'm about for real in that sense. So, and she, to the extent, knew what I was about. So we leave the dorm. We're not even walking on the same side of campus. We're walking towards where the classes are, but she's like on this side of what we call the promenade. So it's like a brick road. She's on this side, I'm on that side. We're walking the same direction, but not side by side. It's kind of a walk of shame, almost, because it's like, oops, this wasn't supposed to happen. Um, and I'm very much still trying to assert my independence. Like, I'm not trying to share. I'm not trying to show you off, none of that. And it didn't seem like she was eager to do that either, maybe because of the reputation that I was gaining. And so, but however, even though there wasn't that public acknowledgement between either of us yet, every time we look up, there's a hair dryer in my room now. There's like combs and beauty stuff. And eventually, there's clothes, like a lot of stuff, just like suddenly appearing. And of course, my friends are making jokes like, "Oh, okay, when I'm coming to the wedding, this, that, and the third." I'm just like, man, whatever. But it's like, there's girls in my dorm all the time. We're consistently commencing in coitus. It's pretty good too, by the way. I mean, it can be. I'm like 18, 19. I wasn't then what I am now, in my opinion. Looking back, but you know what I'm saying? We're doing what we're doing. It's like there's a bunch of girls I want to interact with. It's like, well, I could invite you to my dorm, but then I got to kick out this girl who I'm hanging with. I don't want to do that. I could go to you, but I feel like if I go link with you, I'm gonna feel the pressure to want to lie because I don't think I'm bold enough to just say, "Hey, yo, I'm gonna go smash this other shorty, just chill in my room." I don't think I'm bold enough to do that. And even though it's a lot of girls who had my interest at the time, one who even had my jacket that I had to ask for back. It just it didn't fit. It didn't make sense no more. And so it was just like, all right, get rid of y'all. And of course, it wasn't like temptation wasn't always there either. I mean, when I moved to a loft the next year, I had a next door neighbor. I'll never forget her as long as I live. One of the finest women I ever seen on this planet was this woman named Erin. Yes, we had the same name. And she wanted me so bad. And I mean, like, yes, I think I'm handsome, but like, I'll never, I think it was just that because she knew she couldn't have me also because I was in a relationship. She used to try so hard. I used to just have to pretend like I didn't notice. But yeah, I think it was just, I don't know if it was me being in pursuit of love. Maybe a bit, because we had that whole conversation earlier about how we reached that sort of normalcy. But also, it was just more so, one, me lacking the ability to set the boundaries I want. Two, me feeling like it was a lot of effort to either go see a girl and have to lie or invite a girl here and kick this girl out. And I think when I thought about all that, it was just like, this is a lot. This girl's already here. I only kicked like maybe one person out of my dorm room also. Like, and that wasn't even a kick out. It was one of them, so what you got to do? Like, I remember this other girl stayed in my dorm the previous semester and she spent the night. And it wasn't even like on no get it in type stuff. But she liked me, but I wasn't feeling her like that. And the next day, I'm getting up to go in the morning and run. And I'm like, hey, I'm about to exercise. So what you got to do? Basically, like, get out and work. But it's not something I'm accustomed to. Setting boundaries also was not something I was accustomed to. So for the lack of boundaries I had, as well as what my current definition of respect was, as well as me also just enjoying my time with this individual, was like, you know what? Let's see what's to it. This isn't exactly what I believe in, but let's see where it goes.
I get it. I understand what you're saying, and I'm hearing it. So your lack of boundaries is what got you into this relationship in the first place. Your inability to say yes or no in these situations because you felt uncomfortable saying something that might hurt her feelings. I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Okay, so you prioritize her needs above yours in that moment, and her needs became priority in a sense.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it. So you've gone from roster to single. So you've gone from roster to one man band in a sense, right? All because you also technically you don't want to hurt her feelings. I'm not saying that you didn't love her or anything, I didn't care about her. I'm just saying that technically you didn't want to. You reason why you didn't want to be able to. You didn't want her to feel some type of way, right? Like, cause even in your thinking, you were saying, "Well, I could kick her out, but then I don't want to. I don't want to have to do that." So you were willingly putting her needs well above yours.
Yeah, that's an astute way of putting it for sure.
Okay, I definitely understand that. Okay, cool. I get it. Okay, so tell me then. Obviously, then how do we get to Jodi? Because obviously, I know I'd love to dive deep into that relationship, but that time's gonna run, so I want to respect that. How do we get into Jodi? How do we get to the place from that young lady to Jodi as well? How do we get to that place?
As I mentioned, a lot of things about them are opposites. Some things are the same for sure. Like they're both corny. Jodi is a really funny corny. I think that my ex is also a really funny corny. It's one thing that drew me in for sure. But like Jodi believes in having her own space, versus my ex who really she's one of those girls, I like you, I want to live in your skin. Um, has very traditional views of society, relationships, and religion. Jodi's like, but what if it wasn't like that? Let's question what society is currently. And I was like, dang, a lot of what you're saying is a lot of how I feel and a lot of what I used to get in arguments about. So I'm seeing this person like everything in common with me that my previous partner did. And it's not saying that one is better for me than the other because I have plenty of things that were very compatible to me and that previous partner. But leaving something and then finding something that's totally different, but very much calling out to you is like, ooh, let me see what's up with this. Also, Jodi was like, emotions are over here, life is over here. X is like, emotions in life hit you all at once. I need a balance of those two. What I've learned, I don't think I want either of those approaches. But opposites. So I guess it was more so just seeing what the other side is like and if the grass is green.
When you say opposites, are you saying that the partner you was with for 8 years, you said earlier on, because I remember you mentioned the words clingy. Did you feel like you needed more space from your previous partner compared to what you were getting with Jodi in a sense?
She was only clingy like the first year. So I don't even want to speak on her like she was all under me all the time because our second year being together, there were periods of time when she had to be alone a lot. She's like, man, I see what you're talking about. Like, but also I also wanted to live all alone and I didn't have that because we always lived together. So it was always somebody in my space. Versus, with Jodi, and you can see it on the show. And this is probably a weird way of dating. So I did like kind of see that later on, but she was doing her thing, I was doing my thing. I did not see a single problem with it. I didn't see it as, oh, they're just friends. I just saw it as, oh, I can breathe. And even when it eventually got to the episode where like I had to move out of the room I was in and into the room with Jodi, like I wasn't pressed to do that. Like for real. And it wasn't for a lack of wanting to be around her. She would have came to my room and would have been cool, but unfortunately, roommate and his girl was already in my room. But one, I love my routine. Two, I love my space. And it's okay for me to finally want to have somebody in my space, but it's like also just adjusting and changing my routine bothersome. So the space she gave me was a breath of fresh air compared to what I was used to.
Definitely understand that. So what attracted you to Jodi then? Of course, the space aspect, but what actually attracted you to Jodi? I know you said obviously send the DMs because you saw the half naked photos.
Mm-hmm.
But what attracted you to Jodi? I'm saying like after the initial attraction of physicality, what attracted you to Jodi? What made you want to actually pursue something with her?
She was so different. She was so open. She was whatever is the opposite of stereotypical. Like she wasn't like normal women. She liked to think outside of her emotions and logically break things down. She had views that were more similar to my own. Like neither of us conform to a specific religion for real. Both of us believe in marriage being business. Not only business, we can travel back to that if we want to. I don't think it's strictly business like LLC, but it is business. Just a lot of different, even on the creative side, like the person I was previously with wasn't really a creative per se. But this person is like, oh wow, so you like to do this, you like to perform. You know what I'm saying? You are interested in saying it was like I was seeing a lot of myself there in ways that really appealed to me. So it's like, well shit, what's up? Like she'll say something like, that's how I feel. Or she'll do something like, that's exactly what I would have done. And so all of that kind of just made me gravitate towards her.
At what point did you? At what point? No, no. Let me not say that. Not yet. Let me say. Okay. So obviously you guys were talking. You realize that you guys are having a similar mindset. It's working, as well. So at what point does the relationship? At what point does the connection turn to a relationship for you guys?
You know what's so interesting? I think I've addressed this in only one other interview. They laid it on a bit thick with the whole you've been in a relationship for 6 months with this person, 12 years with that person, 3 years with this person. That's not what it is, man. Let's be real.
What is it?
Got a lot of attractive, some of us in our late 20s, most of us in our 30s, people that are meeting each other for the first time. You, honest to God, feel like as attractive as each of us are in our own cities and states, we didn't have people that we were talking to or that like we were hanging out with or something. Like eventually, yeah, as things got more serious with we were speaking with our DMs, especially when we realized we really might meet each other. Okay, yeah, true. But it's more like you see someone who you're interested in, y'all messaging back and forth. It's more like a really sexy pen pal or like just the average DM slide, which is a part of everyday life now, rather than a full-fledged relationship. We talk, we're dating at most, but full-fledged relationship, maybe Aaron and Diamond or something like that. They're an older generation. You know, a lot of ideals are more traditional in that sense. But the rest of us, I'm just interested in you. And so now I'm meeting this person that I'm interested in, with whom I've been speaking with for how long.
I get it. Okay. No, I hear it. I get it. Understand that perspective. Okay, so obviously, what made you guys go on the show first and foremost? What was the motivation to go onto the show?
Motivation on the show. I think it just felt like things were aligning. So we weren't recording yet, but I definitely remember mentioning to you that I feel like things happen the way they're supposed to. So I was actually supposed to meet her prior to the show, but I ended up losing my ID, which is kind of ironic because I just saw her recently in person. Right before I saw her, I lost my ID and I was on my way to catch a flight. So, you know, it just seems like that is a commonality in our story. But wasn't able to catch a flight because I lost my ID. And I didn't have another opportunity where our schedules aligned because both of us were doing a lot of business and doing a lot just in general for real, to where I could come out to see her again. And that was probably the year I visited Chicago the least, even though that's where I'm from. I go there a lot. And next thing I know, this opportunity comes up. It's like, well, both of us are trying to expand our brand anyway. Also, I do want to see it in person. I do want to reach. I do want to actually see like where this could go. And it kind of felt like just two birds with one stone. Boom, TV, but also boom, we get to see what it's like in person between us.
Okay, I hear that. So obviously now you're on the show, you get to meet. We see this very first interaction where you go, you're walking up, and she feels like you're trying too hard. Then you obviously the wine bottle. You got to pass it to her. She got to open it. Tell us a little bit about that particular scene. What was going on? Because boy, it looked like a bit of carnage. I can't lie to you.
Man, that wasn't total setup. I honestly feel like production was having fun because they knew I didn't drink and they knew she didn't prefer really drinking like that. And it's just like, oh yeah, let's give him a wine bottle. Why would you do this? You know I don't drink. And of course I don't know how to open this. When do I interact with wine? The only time I interact with wine is when I'm buying grapes at the grocery store. Closest I've come. So it's just like, y'all know I don't drink. Why would y'all put this here? I mean, I don't know. It didn't feel like try hard to me. It just felt like making the best of the bad situations. Things were going left. I realized I'm not as good at sauce as I thought I was. Fall on my head. There's a wine bottle. It's here. You know what I'm saying? We might as well crack it open. Trying to crack it open. Oh, I don't know how to open this. So I don't use these. It was just rolling with the punches for real. I mean, I can't say anything beyond that because it wasn't exactly as I planned, but honestly, it was okay. And the fact that she rated the date a 6 out of 10 was actually a pleasant surprise to me because I thought it was a complete disaster. But there were moments that were kind of nice on the date. So it's like, okay, maybe that's the reason why.
Yeah, I definitely hear that. And obviously, yeah, she definitely was letting you know that that she was not impressed at that point in time. How did you recover that situation then later on? How did you recover that situation? Because it looked like a false start. So I want to know how did you recover that situation?
How to recover? I don't think there was a genuine first date recovery until like the season finale for real, personally. But what I will say is that I think that was just a steady growth because it was on one hand, it was an isolated incident, but on the other hand, it was just something that was always looming over our heads because we had plenty of moments after that where you guys don't get to see them, but we're having like different deep conversations. We're actually enjoying each other's company. But I do feel like it definitely had a strong after effect or aftertaste for the length of the time we're in the house. So on our second date, I like go through so much to make sure that I don't leave any chance. Like I said, I didn't want the wine bottle there. It wasn't my choice. So when we're about to go on a second date, I'm trying to have as much shit under my control as possible. I'm like, all right, so we need this, we need this, we need this. And they're like, oh, we can't get that. I'm like, we can't get that, we need this. We can get that, it needs to be here, it needs to be this type of environment. It needs to be like, I don't want to leave a single thing to the imagination. I want to know exactly how we're doing this. I wanted to go this way because I had the first date going on with the salsa dance. Actually, it was bad, but it wasn't that bad. Actually, we were giggling and smiling during the dance, and there were a lot of moments that we enjoyed at that time. Now, granted, I still had to recover from that, but it was everything else that made that first date bad. It was like, all right, let me keep this under my control. And so I did it, and it was a success. I wasn't prepared to see her confessional about the kiss at the end, but that went as planned. And so in my mind, things were going further. And like right before, leading up to the day, she was actually more affectionate as well. So it was a lot just building up.
So, question: did you think that she actually liked you? This one's just been honest. Like, did you feel the intention? Did you feel the desire from her towards you in terms of wanting you?
It felt so back and forth. There were moments where she would say or do something, and it's like, what's up? The other moments where it's like, girl, what's your problem? And it wasn't. I think I said this on the show. It was just hard to figure her out. Like, it was moments where it definitely seemed like she was into me. It was other moments where it was like, get the out of my face. And it's like, I never really knew where I was going, like for real. And I think because I remember she had I actually so I don't think it was I don't know if it was episode 7 or 6 or whatever, but when she had her moment with the therapist by herself, I didn't watch that portion of the episode the first time because the first time I watched it on live TV, so I missed her section with Dr. Ali entirely. But I went back to watch it when I was hanging with one of my homegirls, and of course my homegirls hate Jodi, but me, I'm like I'm just seeing a girl when I see it, so it was kind of pulling at my heartstrings because we're breaking down the fact that she does want romance, she does want a lot of these things. However, she has her guard up. So it made me feel like I could understand her a little better. It's like, okay, so there were emotionally intimate moments that you did enjoy, but it's also that like that push and pull like that you mentioned earlier, like, okay, it's not what I want. But it is what I want, but I don't trust it. And so I feel like the moments where she let her guard down and she was vulnerable, like it was like, all right, that's enough of that. Like it was just nothing more than a defense mechanism. So as I look back, I definitely think that she likes me, but it's also like I'm not ready for what you're trying to get me, bro. And that's cool.
So obviously, during obviously the show, obviously you guys have several moments where you meet a therapist. You know, you have your one-to-one talks. You know that moment where obviously the bed situation as well, which was just she kind of scolded you for that. There's also a cutscene, and I'm sure there's probably more, where you wanted you to get a drink. You asked. I want you to explain that, bro. What happened with the drink situation, dog?
You know what's so funny? One of my biggest worries. I wasn't worried about anything when we finished the show, but like 2 years passed, and they're like, "All right, we're releasing it," and I'm starting to become concerned because I was worried that I was a little bit too nice. Like I was too passive. I was too allowing. I was really like, and to an extent, y'all saw me as such, but it was just that scene was actually for me a breath of fresh air because as I'm looking back on it, I'm like, okay, because I was worried that people were going to see Jodi as someone who bullied me, and y'all kind of still did. I still don't feel that way when I watch it, but I also know what didn't happen. But when I saw that scene, it was like, okay, I wasn't taking no shit. Like that was the only time where I don't know, because I asked another interviewer like, when did you actually see her disrespect me? The only time where I felt like she needed to be checked for saying something to me where we were on screen together was that moment. I actually did say my piece. And I was like, okay, that was a very me moment right there. Like, a lot of people have their different opinions about that scene because I saw a lot of comments that say things like, well, if a girl like a guy, I should let him drink the room. But here's my thing. She has the exact amount that she wants in the cup. She plans on drinking. We've never kissed before. Everybody else meets their person and immediately wants to swap spit. I didn't want to drink straight from her cup. I was going to do a waterfall for her. Essentially, we was kind of on the same vibe with that. It was just she didn't care for my approach. I didn't care for her approach. I thought it was a good showcase of anything of how she wasn't going to be bullying me on the show or wasn't doing so.
I hear you. I guess obviously from a perspective of a watcher, when someone's obviously, I get it, she has the right amount of drink in her cup, but you guys, she asked if you wanted some at first, and then it gets pulled back, and then it's like, get your own in a sense. Yeah, if I'm honest, bro, that's not the most kindest of gestures or appreciative behaviors from someone that you're trying to get to know. You know what I mean?
You know, you know how they say that women do certain things to test you to see what your reaction is going to be?
Yeah, some women do it when they're toxic.
Yeah, she's one that's toxic. I guess I've never met a woman that isn't because, but to that extent, what I think was happening when I look back on it also was I don't drink, right? So I think it was the moment to allow me to kind of assert that lifestyle, that belief that I'm not a drinker. But instead of me doing that, it was like, well, I mean, I'll take a sip. But that's how I took a sip. You said it tasted really good. I like tasting things that taste good, and it threw off exactly. And this is just me theorizing. I could be wrong if you ask her, but it just was probably going off because she wanted to showcase that, and it was like, okay, that didn't happen. It's even crazier for me to say I'll take a sip of the wine that's in that when we just discussed in the previous episode that I don't drink and couldn't open a wine bottle. So she was trying to afford me the opportunity to assert my lifestyle, but I was more, what she didn't realize is I was more so just like, oh, it tastes good. Let me see what it tastes like. I'm not drinking, but I'll literally have a couple drops. And it was a disconnect there.
So for you in that situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe that you were actually asserting your true self in certain moments like that with Jodi? Did you feel like you were actually being true to yourself? Because it sounds like we're almost having that moment again where we spoke about in school, where you kind of fawning again and kind of not putting your full self across just in case it gets rejected. Were you kind of having to like hide parts of yourself with Jodi?
That's a great callback. I would say no, because I'm 27 on the show. Now, keep in mind, I did say that I'm a very sober person. I don't drink, right? My 26th birthday, I decided that I would try out getting drunk for the first time. So it's not that I've never had a drink now. I've actually, at this point in my life, by the time on the show, I've probably had a couple of drinks. It's very rare, probably like every few months, maybe a cup or something like that. So it wasn't just something that was completely separate from my existence anymore. It was just something that is not a part of my life and I don't do often. So as I've already dabbled in this experiment, I have no qualms against taking a sip or something like that. Nor am I going to be like, hey, yo, definitely give me some. It was like, you know what? If it tastes good, I will try it because I've had a little bit of alcohol now. It's like I'm not chasing the idea of getting drunk, but I really am curious to know, does it taste as good as everybody in this kitchen is saying it is? But it didn't feel like assimilating in that sense or trying to hide myself just because I had already opened that door for myself already. And it wasn't in preparation to the show or anything else. It was nothing more than just my curiosity. And the same way that I was curious on my 26th birthday about what it was like to be drunk is the same way that I was curious in that kitchen about what the alcohol tasted like. But only the taste.
Okay. So obviously then, you guys are kind of going through the show and the men kind of say to you, listen, they feel like, you know what, you're being disrespected. The men feel like you're being disrespected. The men felt like, well, at least that's what we thought. And that's what they're telling us. The men felt like, they had to do an intervention for you. So I want to know, why is it that they had a different thought process to what you had? Because it didn't seem like you felt like you were being disrespected. So what were the men seeing that they wanted to intervene for your ass?
You know what? That's an excellent question. Before I answer that, though, let me move this slightly closer to the wall so that my computer doesn't die the same way my phone did.
No worries at all. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see. I want to be able to understand the process, so I'm interested to find out.
But yeah, so the question was why everyone else might have felt like I was being disrespected, even though I didn't, correct? The same way that I feel like I'm not the stereotypical archetype of a male for an American black man is the same way I felt like the way that our dynamics were built wasn't stereotypical either. Because from jump, everybody's like, y'all look weird. So no one understands the dynamic anyway. But also, she is very abrasive. She does, come off as an aggressive person when she speaks. And that's really her. It's not like, that's not the only side to her. However, what I will say is there were moments where she seemed like she was nicer to other people than me, but I can't fault her for those because one, the other shit around the house irritated her. But let's get off of defending her for a second because I know a lot of people feel like I do that all the time. Let's just talk about how I see reality. I feel like when expectations are placed upon an individual, there's a certain pressure created and a certain reaction from the person who's expecting when those expectations aren't met. And I find that to be true in many senses, but especially relationships. For example, you could be dealing with someone, and I'll just use it from a male's perspective because I am a male. Like I'll be dealing with a girl, right? And there are certain allowances she'll give me, even though we might be, having coitus on a consistent basis. We might see each other a great deal. We might like each other a lot. There are certain allowances I'm allowed because we don't have an official title. I'm not your boyfriend. If we were doing all the same things, but then suddenly I have the title of boyfriend, there are certain expectations that come with it now, certain things I can't do, certain boundaries you're expected to follow, certain guidelines and communications that I need to do, I need to have. And should I not meet those, now suddenly the same person who did not have an attitude for his actions previously, you do now. Titles and expectations, I feel like also create a certain pressure and reaction. And I could see that there were certain moments of expectations, like with the first date, or like with the opportunity with the wine in the house, or just other moments in general. It was like when we came there, I didn't think she expected anything of me, mostly because what I perceived of her, you know what I'm saying, she emotions are over here, logic is over there, and she didn't seem to be someone who expected things of other people because she didn't like disappointment. So that's the Jodi that I know coming here. However, the Jodi here had apparently really high hopes for me. And there were moments where I definitely met or exceeded expectations, and there were moments where I absolutely did not come close to the expectations. And in those moments where it didn't come close, I felt like there was a certain reaction where it's like, bro, what you doing? Or, there was other things going on in the house as well that were bothering her. And it's like, how they say that people closest to you catch the brunt of it. I also feel like it was a piece of that as well. That's not me saying that any moment where y'all disapproved of a reaction of hers, that y'all were in the wrong or that she was in the wrong. It's just me saying that, like, I do understand that certain frictions can come when expectations are a part of an interpersonal relationship. It's not water. You over here just guzzling away and getting hydrated.
So I don't know if I missed it. So what was the? So I don't know if I missed it. So what? So okay. So the men are seeing you seeing it differently to how you're seeing it.
Yeah.
So I just a short answer. How come you're not seeing it the way they're seeing it?
They also don't see Jodi the way I see her, and they don't experience my relationship the way I do, or whatever it was. If you wouldn't call it a relationship.
Is this the first time you've ever experienced that where people see something different to what you saw and talking about in terms of a relationship per se?
It's an interesting question. Yes. I had to really think about it for a second because I did have an experience before where I was dealing with a woman and someone said something, and even though like I would speak against them to seem like I want to unite in front publicly, it also be something I would address with her in private. But that's not the same. That's something I could see. But this is probably the first time that I can think of in my life where I see one thing and y'all see something else.
Do you feel like in this relationship with, or at least interaction with Jodi, that your needs were actually met? Did you actually know what your needs were for Jodi to actually meet the needs that you had in that interactions that you have?
Some yes and some no. There were certain needs I had that were definitely met. I needed space. I needed someone who I felt like understood me ethically and creatively. But if I'm being honest, I did feel like there was a gap, but there were just certain missed moments where, like, I love words of affirmation, right? And I didn't know I loved them until dealing with Jodi, because she thought highly of me, but she wouldn't tell me. She would tell other people. So, like, Jodi's one of the people on earth who I would openly admit I think might be smarter than me. I don't think that many people. So I never knew what she thought of my intelligence for real until, like, she was conversing with some of the other housemates. She's like, "No, Aaron's smart as fuck," and it felt so good to hear her say that. Like, it felt so good to hear her say that. But I never heard of it. I honestly, low key, might have thought she thought I was dumb, because it's never come up. And hearing that, it was like, oh my god, neurons in the brain, endorphins going off. Or it was another time where, like, I heard her, like, compliment other people in the house, like maybe somebody's shirt or something else about somebody. Like, okay, what about me? And I would have to hear her speak to other people to say compliments, because she would still compliment me and say nice things, but it was rarely ever directly to me. It was more like other people, like she would brag on me to other people. And I guess maybe she felt like I didn't need that, like I already had the confidence that I'll be fine. And I probably thought that too. But it wasn't until I heard her say it and have confirmation that, like, okay, so you do feel these things. But it was like, okay, fine. That was a strong.
Did your ex give you words of affirmation? Did your ex ever tell you how great you were? Did your ex tell you how nice you were? Did your ex tell you how kind you are? Did your ex tell you, how amazing Aaron Mack is?
Um, what's interesting? Every now and then, yeah, but also, while she had words of affirmation on the one side, there were also a lot of you're a narcissist, or you're emotional. There was a lot of assertions that were negative as well. There were words of affirmation, but there was also, like, just, and she could have been wrong or right. I was cold, emotionless, according to her. I don't take accountability, according to her. But at least, like, I knew how she felt for sure. Like, I knew that she thought I was handsome. I didn't know she thought I was smart, but also she felt like I was arrogant and talking down to people, which I might kind of syndicate. I won't know that. But she was just vocal in general about how she felt about me. Versus with Joanna, it was more like assuming, a cat and mouse game of, like, trying to figure it out, which starts off fun, but eventually it's like, okay, so what's up?
So you rarely really heard. So in a sense, you kind of rarely heard any positive affirmations from her either. In a sense,
Yeah, I guess so. Which is interesting, because I get them from people who aren't my romantic partners all the time, all the time. But definitely with my ex, there was, like, a lot of, like, no, and that doesn't mean make her a bad person or anything like that either. That's just her expressing what she's feeling and what she's experiencing, which, I have no right or credibility to take her perception of me at all. But on the one hand, it was like negative assertions from my ex, a few positive ones too, definitely, for sure. And then there was, like, just none at all from Jodi, negative or positive, and leaving me to come to my own.
they say that your love languages, not for everybody. I know that for sure, but a lot of our love languages come from the spaces that we were not loved in.
Mm-hmm.
So the spaces that we were not loved in, especially in our childhood, is where our love languages tend to develop until we begin to heal that wound, and then we begin to, I guess, adapt our love languages. I wonder if, for yourself, did you have much words of affirmation from parents yourself?
Interesting question. Nothing but positive words. I won't say nothing, mostly positive from my dad. The only time where I didn't get positive feedback or words of affirmation from my dad was when he was trying to gaslight me to do something that was his definition of manly. So I would be like a punk until I did it. But for the most part, though, it was always you're smart. It was always you're handsome, you're strong, all those things from my dad. My mom, I think I do have memories of her saying nice things about me, like me being smart and me being handsome for sure, like me being a cute kid. But also, you know, remember I told you there were moments where like I would remind her of my dad, and she's not very fond of him. So there was also a lot of negative verbiage there as well, which I don't think I ever searched for. Actually, I probably did search for compliments and things like that in general, but like it was never something that I until dealing with Jodi, it wasn't something that I realized I enjoyed for real.
I definitely hear that. So obviously, I mean, how did you feel, in all honesty, when you hear Jodi, raving and ranting, glowingly about Chris and how amazing he is when he really wasn't that amazing? Shout out to Chris. I think he's great, but he wasn't that amazing.
I don't
Um,
know. You know what's crazy? I don't really remember her raving and ranting about Chris being that great. Even when I watch it, I don't really see that. I remember them agreeing on certain points and disagreeing on others. And the moments where they did agree and they had those commonalities, it was like, yeah, we here. I see what you see on there. But I didn't really see anything more than that. And I don't ever recall her looking at Chris and saying, "You're smart, you're handsome," either. So there's that as well. I just felt like there were two people who could agree on something. And because all of us were cool, me, her, Chris, and Sandia, you saw us in the house a lot, so it was very easy to see them together because whenever she and I happen to be together and we're with Chris, she and Chris, by transitive property of proximity, would be close together. But they were never together without me either.
okay, I hear that. So obviously you had a kiss situation, right? In a kiss situation. Tell us what happened there because, it looked like obviously you would. I don't think you would have tried to kiss. Sorry, I'm talking about a kiss situation. Wait a minute, pause. Let me rewind. The situation with the beds. I want to know about that. What happened because it didn't look like you would have never done this. You were happily sleeping in the room with Chris and Sandia, which I don't know why you didn't get out of there, but you farted and everything in there. Why? What finally influenced you from the men that made you say, okay, I'm gonna go and put the beds together with where Jodi is?
In truth, and I know I said earlier that I was fine if she would have came into the bedroom where I was. Eventually, I still would have needed a routine of some sort to not be changed. But in truth, it was maybe like the second or third night there. We had already discussed sleeping in the same bed. She didn't like sleeping in the room with all the girls. She was going to come sleep in bed with me that night, but it just didn't end up happening. Or maybe she came by and I think she said I was asleep or something like that.
I'm still here, still here.
Okay. Yeah, but so it just didn't happen. But we had discussed it before. So it's not like it was uncharted territory between us. There was already that understanding that we would probably end up sleeping in the same bed while we were there. It just didn't happen the night that it was originally going to happen. So we discussed it. It was something that she brought up and she was interested in. Right? And she didn't say she was uncomfortable with the girl. She just mentioned that she wanted to come sleep in the bed with me. It just never came up again after that. And so it has come up again now. So now I'm on the couch with the guys, there's intervention, and they're like, bro, you're the only one not sleeping with your shorty. And Chris, you know what I'm saying, trying to make it do what it do. And you're playing the saxophone out of your ass. Can you please go sleep with your girl? And I'm like, I look over at Chris and I'm thinking about it like, man, like granted, yes, this was our room, this was my space, but also like I am kind of getting in your way and I don't like that. I actually do. I like my fucks with Chris Happy. It's cool. So at that point, it's like, well, me and Jodi have discussed it. It's not something that's out of the realm of possibility for us. Yes, whatever. I'll do it. Cool. I'll move all my stuff to Jodi's room. I'm sorry that I'm messing up your thunder, bro. So after that happens, I move my things, my personal belongings from what was me and Chris's room into what was the girls' room, which will then become me and Jodi's room. It's interesting. We get the biggest room. We live like that. But after my stuff's moved in there, and I take the bed that I think was Millie's bed, things. I also push the beds together. This is before the time at night when you see me and I think Greg maybe push them together and get that situated. And then all the guys are pretty much like, yeah, ooh, macho talk, whatever. And I think shit over, and I'm like, I haven't spoken to her at all. Yes, we had that conversation in the past, but this isn't a conversation we've had recently. I feel like this is a decision she needs to be a part of. Because a lot of guys want to kind of down the fact, and this isn't just a show, a lot of guys want to down the fact that when you like take a woman into consideration, say you're trying to have her control you and shit like that. Well, no, it's called respect, bro. The same way I don't want nobody impeding on my space, I know she don't want nobody impeding on hers. Like, so I pull the beds back apart. I keep my things in the room because I am going to stop stealing Chris's thunder with him trying to, whatever's going on in the city. But I just feel like before the beds are together, we need to have a talk. And so when I pull it back apart, you can see what Josh is like. You know what I'm saying? What do you think God's gonna say when you see the beds apart? I don't care. Promise you I don't. However, the guys do know I put the bed apart. So we're downstairs now, and all the guys are pretty much trying to shame me and saying that it was a weak move to pull them back apart. And I just feel like y'all are wrong, and the weak move was putting them together based off me being pressured by y'all instead of waiting to speak to my shorty. That's just how I felt. So Jodi can hear all this from the other room. I tried to talk to her about it beforehand, but I didn't have a chance to yet. But now she can hear. Everybody's in our business. It's like, so not only did you do this without talking to me, but the whole house knows what's going on. That's uncomfortable, bro. So we end up having some friction about that. I don't even know if this showed that on camera. We ended up having friction about that. And then my stuff's still in the room, so guys have guys night out, girls have girls night out. We come back to the house, and we each go to bed. I can't sleep. I don't know if she's asleep or not, but I know she's a light sleeper, so it don't matter if she's asleep. If I talk, you're gonna be up. So you can hear me fart, which you know there's mics in the room. You did not hear where Jodi and I, where it's all black and white and we used to bed together. We have a conversation actually. More like me talking to her, being like, all right, fine, I get it. Where I'm like, hey, yo, I really like you, and I'm trying to see where this goes. So it literally just makes sense to push these motherfuckers together. And she's like, okay. Like, I just, you know what I'm saying, let her know how I felt, and she was accepting of it, and I pushed the beds together. So even though, you guys don't hear that, that's what really happened. So the way they put it together, it looks like it does make sense, because they only have so much time in the editing. I get it. I'm not upset with them. I was upset that night, but I'm not upset with them currently now. But the next day, I'm out of bed. I'm actually about to go to the gym. So I hit the gym like every day or every other day while I was there. And I'm about to kiss her on her forehead. It's like a good morning thing. But, she's still asleep. It's not like I woke her up to kiss her good morning. I'm just about to do it out of nowhere. Freaks her out because she didn't like being touched in her sleep. We learned about her triggers and traumas there. So that's when you guys see that moment where she and I have that conversation, and we're talking about the morning and beds and forehead shit. Because, I do know her, but I just didn't know that was going to set her off like that. I thought it was going to be a cute moment, and it just wasn't. But the whole bed thing, it was totally different in reality versus what y'all got to experience.
So the actual biggest, sorry, because I was listening, but I didn't hear it. So the biggest issue that situation was because of the kiss on the forehead, right?
Yeah, the forehead kiss was a way bigger issue than the bed thing. The bed thing had already been solved and put to bed. But yeah.
Okay. Which I get, because obviously it's her boundary, and she's been through some things as well.
Yeah.
I totally understand that. Okay, fair enough. Okay, I don't know if I need to press that any further in that respect. Okay, so then obviously you guys get to a point where you end up, and okay, wait, quick question: how did you actually feel about her and Chris's relationship?
I didn't feel anything for it at all. I didn't even think of it, honestly. I have a lot of women in my life, and I feel like I expressed this on the show, and I probably expressed this in all of my interviews. I have a lot of female friends. Some of them, you know what I'm saying, I wouldn't mind crossing boundaries, but others, it's just like, we're just cool. We just cool. And it's like that. And they're pretty, it's just, there's nothing there. We just happen to have a lot of common, be able to have conversations. And sometimes, like when I would get in arguments with my ex. I'll go to them when we talk about them. Like, yeah, that makes total sense. See, you get it. My partner doesn't, but you do. And it's just like a friend that obviously says, I really didn't see no smoke there for real.
Okay, I hear that. Obviously, later on, you guys end up kissing. Obviously, you don't see what her comments were till a little bit later as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm guessing till after the show's done.
Yeah, I didn't see her reaction until 2024. I had no idea. And it was jokes on YouTube like this kid can't read a room. Maybe I can't. I actually don't. There are certain parts of it, not the kiss, I mean, but like the after date moment where I feel like y'all saw differently than what was exactly happened. But at the same time, you know, I definitely did feel like it went way better. Like, so yeah, seeing that, I was like, whoa, I'm not gonna lie, heart sank into my stomach a little bit.
And that's very painful to not have known until now.
Yeah, yeah. So for you guys, guys probably experienced it on the episode. I didn't experience it on the episode, thank God. But there's a trailer before the show comes out, and the trailer actually shows our kids, which is interesting because I thought they would have kept that to be a surprise, just because I knew our relationship dynamic was going to be something that the public was going to have an opinion on anyway. So the fact that they had our kiss in the trailer is even crazy. But in the trailer, you see the kiss, and then right afterwards, she mentions how she felt nothing. It was like, ouch. It was a real. I don't know if it was as much of an emotional blow as an ego blow too. I did. Oh, but yeah. So by the time the episode came out, I'd already seen the trailer, so I wasn't as phased by it. But yeah, definitely was unaware.
Damn, that's painful, bro. And how do you feel about it? Like now, well, not necessarily now, but at the time when you realized that she felt that way about the kiss, compared to what you felt like at that time, because obviously I don't know how she
Yeah.
communicated with you about the kiss at the time. So, how did you feel about how did you feel about the kiss then, and how did you feel about the kiss when you found out what her thoughts were?
How I felt about the kiss then. I mean, y'all saw me. I really was excited. It was like, all right, so there are other times that we kiss while we're there, but that was actually our first kiss being out there. That was the first one. And the moment felt great to me. I felt like it meant it was a solidification of the date going well. Um, I enjoyed the kiss. It also made me feel like I could have done this way earlier, type shit. Like it was really, I don't want to say easy is the word. It was like, damn, I really could have been done this. Like it was more, and it was a bunch of moments that led up to the date. It was like the balls in your court, like she was waiting on me to do something because she wanted me to take the lead. So for me, it was like a monumental moment. It was like, okay, all I got to do is take the lead, and shit have fallen in place. Which before I was going with the flow, like it was like, okay, you like this, that's cool with me. But it just felt good to one, it was a nice kiss, but two, it just felt nice to get a steering wheel. It just felt like things were going the right way. So to have that mindset then versus watching it now, it's like, oh wow, I was wrong. Or maybe I wasn't entirely wrong. Again, what I experienced in real time is different from what we see on TV. So at the very least, if I wasn't wrong, it was like, well, wow, that wasn't what I thought it was. But I do think on some level there was still a greater power in finding the rhythm to take the lead versus going with the flow. But as far as how I feel now, because when I saw the trailer, of course, like I said, heart and stomach. But when I watched the episode, it's just like, I mean, she feels how she feels. Because there's going to be a lot of experiences in a lot of people's adult lives where you thought the kiss went well, where you thought the date went well, where you thought the coitus went well, and it didn't. There's a lot of guys walking around right now who think every girl they smash, they hitting it right. The girls like, there's a lot of women right now, like most men don't know what they're doing. So at the end of the day, that was just her experience. I do kind of wish she would have told me then, But I guess she was going through that same thing that you mentioned that I was going through, where she was just trying to spare my feelings and not hurt me. The only issue with that is that wouldn't have hurt my feelings for real. Like, watching it on TV in the trailer probably was way more hurtful. She would have just told me in the moment, like, hey, not a bad kiss, but I didn't feel anything. It was like, oh, okay. Like, we could have conversed about it there, but I could understand her wanting to shield me because she cares.
So obviously she didn't let you know. You were excited at the time, so you were actually unawares of her actual true intentions and feelings, right? Um, okay, so then obviously then you guys get to the therapist, which I think was amazing. Shout out to the therapist because I can't lie to you, therapist was out here doing the Lord's work.
Let
Okay.
me tell you before you move on, and I said this in one other email, interview, but I need to say it one more time. Dr. Allie, wherever she is really, really great at her job. I can tell she's great. Not only is she great at observing and breaking things down and speaking it back to you, and you've also been really, really adept at this, but she scared me. She was so good. It was like, did you like look at a file or biopic of my life and then come back in time and talk to me? Like, what's going on? It was scary. Like, lady, is my birth certificate and my social security card in your purse? How are you able to gather this about me? Like, there were certain things she was wrong about, or certain things where she might have misjudged. For the most part, she was spot on, and it freaked me out.
Yeah, I mean, she's got a gift. I can't lie to you. And that's the difference between someone who's gifted and somebody who's studied. Do you get what I'm saying to you?
Yeah.
She's gifted, so she's able to see it for what it actually is. With obviously that as well, like you guys had some conversations, and highlighted about your actual needs and your wants. At that point when she starts highlighting your needs and your wants, are you realizing now that maybe this relationship, or maybe thinking about a relationship with Jodi, is not really the road to be going down?
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, it was probably that moment that, or if not that, I would say that moment as well as when we went back in the house after the date and the energy was off. Those two moments had me kind of like, you know, if she doesn't end this by the time we're leaving this house, I'll go. So I think after we speak to Dr. Ali, both of us are trying to find the words to break things off. But at the same time, while I do realize that maybe romantically things aren't going to work out, I already have certain things in place that I want to do, that I want to accomplish between us first. But yeah, it was definitely eye opening.
So obviously for yourself then, you're starting to see that okay, this relationship might not be the best thing for you. Looking back now,
Mm-hmm.
after Dr. Ali's conversation, I'm sure she highlighted some things. What were some of the things that she highlighted that, or what were the things that you came to a realization that you realized this relationship ain't it? What, like, things that you missed?
I don't know if it was things. I guess it could be things I missed per se. But I think it was less things I missed and things I just wasn't thinking about. Because when she mentioned that there's like, I can't remember every single thing we talked about anymore, actually, to be real. I just remember the feeling of speaking to her. We spoke to her way longer than the show. But when she mentions that you guys are not a couple, but two individual people, it's like, man, like, granted, yes, I do like my space. Like, I like having my own environment, but damn, you're right. We are two individual people. Yeah, we come together sometimes, but maybe this isn't the way that two individuals who are becoming a couple would or should act. It's one thing to be unorthodox, right? Which is how I pursued it before. It's another thing to the method in which our relationship is growing in this house isn't what either of us thought it was going to be. And is if we were to pursue something romantically, this is not the way that we would do it. And so I know that was a big one. it's hard to remember. It's like a dream where it's just on the cusp of being able to be remembered, and it can't come all the way. But that for sure.
You know what's really interesting is that I've seen this before, right? Two separate people that are in a relationship. And the reality reason why that two people are very separate in a relationship is actually because they're actually not emotionally connecting. So they're actually connected to an image that doesn't actually exist, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
almost like if I'm showing you my real self, right, and I'm connecting with you emotionally, I'm gonna create a safe space for you. I'm gonna be listening to you. I'm gonna remember the smaller details. I speak kindly to you. You know what I'm saying? I think highly of you, but I'm also gonna say it, right? I'm gonna spend time with you, right? And also, what one of the biggest things is, I'm gonna be vulnerable with you. So I'm going to share things with you, and I'm also going to expect that you share things with me, and then I'm going to be able to really connect with you on a deeper emotional level. When you get into a relationship where there's two separate people actually happening, what's actually happening is that people are afraid of their vulnerability, right? So she's an avoidant. She avoids the emotions, avoids a difficult conversation. We saw how she broke down with Dr. Ali as well when we finally was actually kind of breaking out some of the things, right? And so in that space, right, she is not getting closer to you, right? At the same time, you like your space. I question whether you like your space. And I'm not saying you don't like your space. I question it in the sense of when we look at your history, you don't like your space. You know why you pushed the beds together? Because you actually wanted connection. You actually wanted closeness, but you
Mm-hmm.
fear the closeness. So you create space and you keep the person at space at a distance because it helps for number one, keep control, but number two, also it kind of prevents the aspect of being rejected. So in that space, y'all are actually both of you are actually trying to prevent the rejection that's happening. So there's just two separate people in a relationship who say they're connecting, who are not actually connecting. And you know how we saw that? Because when you guys had the little sex position situation, that was not a connection.
That's unfair. That's unfair. Pick a different example because I felt like I was crab walking. Like that was the worst one. That was I didn't. I like granted I was definitely staring at her booty or whatever. But I didn't feel comfortable like at all. And when I tried to do the position where it was comfortable, that wasn't the actual position. So when I got there, I just felt like I was in a football practice. Like I would never. I don't. I won't say never. I might try that move at some point in time in the future. But that was the worst position. I think I would have felt more connected than any of the other positions I saw the couples try. Even their other options that they didn't pick. I hated that one so much. But I do agree with you as far as what you're saying on the avoidant thing and questioning whether I like my space. Because I do really enjoy my space, but that could be the real reason is that there's a certain amount of control and lack of rejection. That's not impossible.
No, and I get it. You know, it does happen, and I understand it as well. So I'm not mad at it. It's just like I said, like it's a the lack of it was a lack of connection that we were kind of seeing, which is what other people were kind of seeing in the house. They were seeing a disconnect, right? And because I've actually seen it in person. Two people that actually are like they're saying they're together, but there's so much space between the two of them. They're lying to themselves. Like the reality of the situation is that you're not two, you are two separate people, but the Bible says two shall become one. There should be some tenets of what we're seeing where people are tethering themselves together. We're seeing connection. We're seeing, that we are, you're almost inseparable at points, right? We should also see people rubbing off on one another as well in a positive fashion where we're starting to see mannerisms and the way that we talk and the way that we move, and that starts to rub off on each other because we're actually spending a lot of time with each other. And so when we're just looking at when I guess when the people in the house are looking at it, right? Even at a point, Chris who was backing Jodi was like, brother, get it together. Okay, right? And the reason why he's saying that is because even he is seeing there's no connection there. So, and when I say no connection, what I really mean is that the authentic, true connection that's needed in order for this relationship to really work isn't happening because we are afraid of rejection in that space. So, yeah, and then also like within that as well, I just felt like you were, and now I know a bit more your story as well. Like I said to you earlier on, I said this is a pattern for you, right? It's a pattern for you because you're comfortable in your space, but be, I think maybe why it may have gone on as long as it did is because Jodi literally replicates a pattern that you've actually experienced. It's comfortable. It's so comfortable that and actually, I don't know how you maybe you can express that. Maybe you can explain it a bit further, right? That bed situation was absolute carnage because when you really deep at what was happening is, right, you've chosen to have the space. You go and stay in your room. Fine, fantastic. You stay in your room, but then now you change your mind and you go and open it. You come into a room. Of course, the boys pressure you put the beds together, but technically, they didn't pressure you into what you didn't want to do anyway. That is there. It was there.
I agree with that. Yeah,
You wanted something because you wanted that connection, right? You wanted for that closeness, right? Now I want you to layer that situation with your ma because it's the exact same situation, right? You said a powerful thing. You said, at a point, right? You might go to your mom and want to get close, and what would happen? A rejection. The same thing here happened with Jodi. It's a repeated pattern, right? And sometimes we get locked in this repeated patterns because what we're trying to do is rewrite history. So we're trying to say, okay, you know what? I want to change history, so I'm going to do something different. But the reality of the situation is, if there's no new input, there's always the same output. So you end up repeating the cycle over and over and over again. It looks a little bit different, but it's the same component and the same kind of underlaying underneath it all. Because as soon as you talk about your ma and how that rejection came when you try to get close, that's the exact same thing that happened with Jodi, and that actually is what's going to cause you to now repel again and say, actually, you know what? You're right. Let me keep my same space. Let me not get too close to you. But really and truly, you desire closeness, Aaron. This is why I'm saying that you're fawning, because you're pretending that you don't want it. You want it. And it's going to keep on creating relationships where you're going to want it, but you're not going to go after it all the way you're going to go after it because you're going to be afraid of getting rejected. And in reality, it's a lie. You're not living in your truth. You want the closeness. You want connection. You want the person to respect, love, and care about you. You know what I'm saying to you? They should be over you, my guy. They should be hands on deck with you, my guy. You know what I'm saying to you? They should not be creating space with you where they pull themselves away from you and not want to be near you. You know what I'm saying to you? We do actually have to believe people's actions, not their words. But it's just something I noticed. You know what I mean?
No, I hear what you're saying to an extent. Like, I can definitely say that there's a certain closeness that I do covet, especially from a partner. But at the same time, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up that, like, when people are too close or they are too clingy, it actually, like, physically bothers me. Get out of my face. But also, if someone is clingy or like just around a lot and it disrupts, because earlier we both said that I also like have control over my space. If I feel like you being in my space in any way hinders or interrupts the level of freedom and control I have with my space, that also bothers me. So I can say that there's definitely probably are not the same, but there can certainly raise that possibility that there is a fear of rejection. It's also I guess inexperience from what I've seen from me. Like, when it comes to me having my space, a person enters my space and I almost immediately want to know. Whether it be them being around too much and it's like, yo, you're in my way, or them being around too much and it's like, ew. But I do like my space in a sense. And while I did move the beds together with Jodi, like the whole thing with like moving them together, because we had already spoken about it, right? But it was also, while I wasn't pressed to do it because I was in my routine, when I officially moved together, when we had a conversation about it, it was different. Just because, and granted, it does have some similarities to my mom, true. The whole interaction in general, because there is that, like, trying to be a mother. My mom pushed me away. The thing with Jodi is more like, hey, yo, we doing this or not? And after she said we're doing this, like, all right, we're close. But even then, like, while we were in, we actually ended up really enjoying having the best stuff, by the way. But while I was enjoying that closeness, even while we were close there, had she become a certain level of over attached or too in my space, or like disrupting what I felt like was an environment I could control, that probably would have also made me repel. But those are things I really do take into consideration when I look at my own patterns.
Yes, we call that you're oscillating between anxious and avoidant in your feelings, right? So what you're saying is, if she had got closer, you'd have felt some type of way, and I believe you. You're right. You would have felt some type of way, right? Because we call that fearful avoidant attachment. When someone oscillates between anxious and avoidant, when they get somebody close to them, they want to push them away. But when they push them away, they want them close again, right? They can only have them for a certain amount of time in their proximity before they gotta push them away again, right? And what that really is two things. Number one, underlining it all is that actually we feel that we are actually unlovable, and that's coming from a place of because of what you've experienced as a kid. So there's an underlying motivation or thought process, which is I'm unlovable. And the other aspect comes into play, which is I'm afraid of being rejected, and also that and the other aspect is that am I worthy of love? And so you try to prove that you're worthy of love, which is where the anxiety comes from, where you try to chase, right? The fear of rejection promotes the avoidancy. But then when you combine the two, what actually ends up happening is the person starts to feel like, am I actually lovable? Like I'm not lovable. So I keep people at a distance, which goes back to your very words, which is they're fearful avoidance, always afraid of being not accepted and not supported. And actually, when you really deep it, when you talk about your childhood and talking about they had to hide pieces of yourself, absolutely. Because if they actually saw you for who you actually were, they potentially could reject you and potentially would end up abandoning you. So you weren't going to tell them nothing because you want to be accepted. So in reality, the situation with Jodi, it works with Jodi because you don't have to show all of your sides of Jodi. So long as she keeps a distance, you're gonna keep a distance. And if you keep a distance, I don't get to show you all the sides of me, which means you can't fully reject me. But that's not how love can really work, because then we're not really taking the risk of the person seeing us in our entirety. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. Listen, you deserve to be loved to be loved fully, bro, in all aspects of you. You deserve to be able to talk about your anime and talk about light bulbs if you want to talk about light bulbs. Talk about skiing one day, next minute. You deserve to be able to do to be able to have someone that you can actually be your full self with, because there are people out there that actually genuinely want to love you, bro, for your entirety. There are women out there that will see you right now and be like, this guy is amazing, and will not want to push you away, will not want to stay away from you. But you're going to also have to work, because you're going to attract women like Jodi consistently, because people like Jodi are seeing your energy, and they see that you're distant, you're kind of oscillating between the two, where you're distant but then at the same time kind of close. They enjoy that because that's their MO too. She's also distant. So until you start to actually look at yourself and go, okay, how am I going to start healing parts of myself first? You're going to keep encountering women that are going to be either clingy, way too clingy, potentially codependent, that want to just be on you and their whole life is about you, or you're gonna choose women that are completely distant from you, right? And they kind of like keep themselves at bay. And what's all that's gonna happen is you are going to repeat the pattern. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. Like, you have the power in your hands now, Aaron, for how your life is going to map out, but also how people can love you. Because how am I going to love you, bro, if when I get close to you, you want to push me away? And then when I do walk away, when you tell me to walk away, I walk away, and then you're like, come back. How can you know what I mean? Like, how can I love you in its entirety? You deserve that love, bro. You deserve it. You need to know that you deserve that love, bro. You know what I'm saying to you? Yeah.
No, it's powerful to hear, honestly. 'Cause, I think that is. Honestly, I think I attract a lot of women. The women I choose to entertain do fall between those two categories more often than not. And if they don't fall between those two categories, there'll be something in me that will end up not resonating with them. So I can definitely see that being a pattern that needs to be worked on for sure. Um, I'm actually really enjoying being able to converse with you and hearing your analyses of different characteristics because it's the opportunity. It'll give me the opportunity to do other. I saw certain growths within me while I was in the house, but it's different. To also be able to have this conversation and see other things I need to work on that I wasn't able to see myself. Because it's one thing to be aware, right, and have those conscious decisions that you're like, okay, this got to be working on that, or to hear feedback from someone close to you, would be like, okay, this, how to do that. That's another thing to have a conversation with an experienced relationship therapist, and then also they be like, hey, this is related to that, and until you find a way to work on it, you're gonna be stuck in this loop, right? And I want to make an anime reference so bad, I know everybody's not gonna get it, but I'm definitely enjoying hearing these things. I'm making a list. I'll make a list of lots of things, and it's giving me new homework to work on about myself personally.
I love that, bro. Because I've loved this. I've loved this conversation because I think, like I said from the very beginning, bro, you're very open. You know what I mean? Like you're sharing with me, and you know you told your history, and you told us your story. Do you know what I'm saying to you? Like, you know, and I appreciate it, bro. You know what I mean? Because I think for me personally, it gave me more opportunity to really understand you, and it also gave me more opportunity to have empathy as well with you. You know what I mean? Like, yo, like we've all gone through some ish, but I now see how that can affect someone else in a completely different way. Do you know what I'm saying to you? Um, and so I really appreciate it. And I've seen your intelligence, your smart one, but you're also quite funny as well, bro. Do you know what I'm saying? These are great qualities. You laugh and you laugh heartily, bro. When people laugh heartily, bro, it invites other people to want to laugh too. Do you know what I'm saying to you? Like you're a light, and I'm trying to tell you, like it's attractive because it draws people in. Do you know what I'm saying to you? And so I appreciate that about you as well. You know what I'm saying to you? So the fact that you sat with me for 2.5 hours and you've been quite open, I haven't sensed, and usually I get a sense when people are like kind of like blocking me because they will block you. They'll let you know emotionally. They're not ready to have that conversation, which is fair. But you've been open. You've let the walls down and you've shared. You've answered every question. You know, you've tried to give us insight into how you're thinking as well. You know, it's really been, from my perspective, it's been really intriguing, interesting, and also fun. If I'm honest with you, so I really do appreciate that you had this conversation with me, bro. I can't even lie to you, honestly.
No, I appreciate it as well. I know we have been trying to speak with one another for a minute, but it's been a very that. It's been a very
Got something in your throat, my brother.
dialogue. But yeah, I've tried to be open with everyone whom I've interviewed since the show. I know in one of my interviews, I guess, because they saw how linguistically lax I was, and there was a certain level of vulgarity. They were like, "This isn't airing on the show. If you watch it, they actually bleep me out loud. I cuss and I try to tone it down a bit here, but yeah, I felt like it wouldn't have been a purpose if I came and spoke with any of you, with the previous interviewers, and I wasn't being my authentic self. I really want y'all to know me, not just airing on the show, but like airing here. And also, in getting to let you guys know me, I also learned more about myself in the process. And so it's a fun experience. It's nice. It's nice to have a conversation.
Yeah, it's definitely nice to have a conversation, man. Especially when it flows as well, man. You know, that's why. You know, we of course we have a few habits that are quite similar. You know, I mean, we like to eat some certain foods that people probably wouldn't eat. You know what I mean? So you know, I'm definitely gonna try out that sweetness. I'm gonna definitely try that concoction that you said I should try. So
You hear me when you do, bro.
I'm gonna try it. Okay, I'm gonna put some things together. That's what I'm gonna do. So, yeah. So obviously for you, coming up towards the end of the interview for you, I mean, are you and Jodi still in contact now? I know it was almost 2 years ago, but are you guys still in contact? Like, what's the state of affairs right at the moment?
Absolutely, absolutely. So we still speak, especially when the show came out. She called me like almost every day. Like originally it was same way, I have that push and pull pattern. I don't like people talking to me too much, which she even knows. But if it wasn't every day, it was every other. There was a day I could think of where I wasn't even calling or texting Jodi once the show was out. But even before the show came out, we were in contact. I actually just saw her in person. I visited Chicago for about a week, and while I was there, she saw my story that I was in town. I didn't tell her specifically. She saw my story that I was in town. She was like, "Yo, before you go, let's link." And I can't lie, I was excited. I did want to see her. I missed her, so I go up to meet up with her, and all I'm reminded about is like how she has this really sweet side, and she's just a girl. It's like, oh my god. But yeah, so definitely still in contact with you.
Love that, man. I love that. Obviously, for yourself, then, looking back, anything that you would have done differently, or any learns from this process that you've had?
Definitely a lot of learns. Only thing I would have done differently is pack cologne and not forget my cookie cutter approach. But as far as things I've learned, um, hmm, in the experience, I learned that they didn't show this on the show either, but it's just something I learned all out there. It's really easy to control a room of people, especially when nobody's emotionally moving you, and you can articulate. Terrible example of what I'm speaking about, but articulate yourself in a manner where everybody can hear you. But I learned that. I learned that it's better to go with my gut in the dating process than overthink myself out of things or go with the flow too much. Because even though it may not seem this way watching, it really did feel this way. Like whenever I just did my first instinct as opposed to waiting or overthinking when it came to Jodi, things did feel like I learned that. I also learned that California is not warm year round. And the hot tub was my best friend. I'm never, ever going to Cali near the water in the winter, ever or the late fall, ever again. But I probably learned, and I also learned a bit from this conversation also, which is indirectly related to the house.
I appreciate it, Cap, honestly. Well, Aaron, listen, it's been an amazing conversation. I've learned some things, and it's prompted me to go and research and study some more as well. Like I said, 'cause it's always good to understand people, because we can promote more empathy. But I think the audience has got to understand you a bit better. I think they've definitely got to see a different side to you, and I believe that they're more endeared to you during this conversation as well. And I love, first of all, like I said, like Elsa said, we love the hoodie. Keep the authenticity. You know what I mean? Keep that up, man. Because like I said, like that's the parts of you that people are gonna love, and actually that's what makes you a USP, man. That's your USP. It's like when you're you, that's your USP because no one else can do what you do. You know what I mean? So I appreciate you coming on there and being you, fam. It's more than enough, and we appreciate that. You know what I mean?
Man, unless you get to your night, probably got to get back to to animating it up. But let me know when you do that concoction for sure.
Listen, I got you, man. And hopefully we can have you back on the here maybe later on in the year, and it'll be just a normal chat as well. So we appreciate you, bro.
Let me know when.
I got you. Audience members, thank you so much. It's appreciated to have you guys here. Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. I know it was 2.5 hours long. I will break down the video for you guys so that you don't have to watch the whole thing all in one go. But I hope there was enough in there for you guys to learn from. I will do a follow up video because I think this is again going back to what we're talking about this month and a bit, which is attachment styles. And really being able to understand how attachment styles really do affect people in terms of how they date, how they have relationships. Now, if you're somebody who saw yourself in Aaron in the way that he was dealing with relationships, where he was almost wanting love but kind of rejecting it at the same time, then look, this is a perfect example for you just to reach out to me. Look, okay, all right, yeah. If you think I've got the patience of an angel, this is a perfect example for a reason why you should reach out to me and get us onto the coaching for you guys. All right, I really do appreciate you who've joined us in this conversation. and I will see you again very, very soon. Much love, much appreciation. See you again very soon. Appreciate